listening to the MycoGeeky Podcast, a podcast that inspires people to grow mushrooms at home to improve their mental, emotional, and physical health. Most people call him geeky, and he is a passionate mushroom cultivator, advocate, and educator. Every week, he sits down with fellow cultivators, mushroom educators, scientists, and therapists to discuss the various ways people can approach mushroom cultivation and how mushrooms can be used to improve their lives.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast. What do we do? Oh, yeah. I don't even wait, what is this podcast about? Oh, yeah, mushrooms. That's right. I forgot. You know, we go deep, so you can level up your at-home mushroom cultivation game. Anyway, boy, oh boy, man, I am glad I upgraded that intro package. I, of course, today had some issues, wasn't going to go live, had to go live, and I forgot to upload the new package. I'm so sorry, guys. It's okay. I know that old one was obnoxious. I had a plan for that. I had a reason, but the new one's better, right? I think so. Anyway. All right. Well, we're here. I'm your host, MycoGeeky. We're going to talk about mushrooms. That tends to be what I do all the time. Just ask my wife. Just ask anybody I hang out with. And I'm going to get to talk to mushroom loving mother effer that you guys all love. I mean, man, I was looking at the comments here before we even got going. Let me just pop a couple of these on. Stoked for this one. Can't wait. Woo! Ed Green in the house tonight. Gonna be a can't miss episode for sure. What else we got? Ed's the man. He is a man. I am pretty sure. He has not proven it to me, nor does he need to. All right, Martha. What's up, Martha? She says, I don't know. This must be the Colombian version of yeehaw. It's yay. Cool, man. All right, Martha in the house. She says deep science is back again. Mass Mofos is smiling. That's good. Not always the case. What else? I don't know if I can stay awake. Well, good luck, Mass Mofo. Guess what? If you can't, it's going to be there, so you can come back to it. No worries. Ed's always bringing the heat. So grateful from Lolo Lawrence. Derek Carroll F. Yeah, let's get it, y'all. Yes, you forgot the apostrophe, Derek. I'm not mad at you. Perfect thing to have on while I'm pouring plates. Yeah, dude, I don't know if you guys can see. That's what I did earlier. And I usually try to get that crap off. I like to keep the scene clean, but I did not succeed. I had too much going on today. What else we got here? Hello from KCMO. Dr. Ed, I placed an order for 4 sets of swabs last night. You ain't getting them tomorrow, dude, so don't go bugging him. It's going to take a minute. He lives in Thailand. You guys saw the thumbnail. All right. Who else we got on here? All right. The homie Happy Hyphae. This should be a good time. Yes, it should be. By the way, I'm going to NAMA. You guys know I'm going to NAMA, right? I'm going to NAMA, the NAMA foray up in Washington State. I'm going to get to hang out with the Myco Mamas. Finally get to meet one of my faves. It's going to be a good time. Mama D, Mama S, Squiggly Watson. Who else? Some other people. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to say this. The homie Happy Hyphae messaged me one day. He said, dude, I think I gotta go to Washington with you. You've been talking it up. You getting me excited. I never been over to the Pacific Northwest, so he's coming with. We are gonna handle our business in the Pacific Northwest. Let me tell you, it's gonna be a good time. Maybe I can get that dude on here one of these days. He's just tending to his beds, guys. He was working so hard, he broke some freaking jars today. I mean, this guy never stops. And if he's not doing that, he's editing old skateboarding videos. Go check him out. What is it? Happyspores.com. He's got some cool stuff up there. Go check it out. He just crushed Choco Rojo flush. He's putting in the work. He's been growing mushrooms for a minute, couple decades, his entire adult life plus all right, who else we got on here? All right, exception to the rule. Hey, Geeky, looking forward to watching you and Ed tonight. Yes. I am also looking forward to it. Guess what I'm doing right now, guys? I'm giving Ed a chance to change his shirt, drink some Thai iced tea. I'm sure it's Thai iced tea. I got to assume that's what it is, though I don't know for sure. What else we got on here? All right. There we go. Cube Queen, Down Under, Geeky Fam. Ed always bringing an interesting spin on things. He does. He sure does. Irreverence, quick wit, like every single amount of opinionatedness you can possibly have, coupled with a PhD in mycology. And yes, it's always a good time. Johnny 𝐸𝐸, gotta love 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞, the Grand Rant Master. Well, we're gonna try not to do rants tonight, Johnny 𝐸𝐸. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we don't approach a rant-like state. It could happen. All right, what else we got here? We're almost caught up. All right, Wayne Myco, what's up, man? Love you too. All right, shout out to Stealthy in the house per usual. Man, you know what? Guess what I just convinced Stealthy to do? He's going to come on the show. He's going to tell the story. We're going to find out how he came to do the Stealthy Spores cards. The story behind it, how it came about, how he, gets all the cards, all that stuff. We're getting into it. That'll be in a couple weeks. Should be a good time. Ed actually answered my question, which was, what was in his drink, and he said kratom and Coke. Oh my God, too good. All right. Opinions are encouraged. Yes, Info Warrior, they absolutely are. All right. What up, cuz? What up, cuz? Thank you for being a positive person. I would love to say always, not so, but when I'm live, I'm in my zone, I'm in my element. I get to hang out with one of my favorite people on earth. So yes. All right. Awoken Shroom Boy, let's go. Ed is the man. I ain't even mad at you for that typo, Awaken Shroom Boy. And Ed just said, I saved the full-size rants for my own lives. Yes, smart move. All right, shout out to Michael Allen. What's up, Holmes? All right, shout out to Justin Norse. Looking forward to Ed, yes. See what I'm doing? I'm building up anticipation, guys. See how I do that? All right. One of my favorite people in the online myco community. We're going to meet one of these days. Steve Bonas. This guy has the best DMs you have ever heard. They make me laugh. They're witty. They're funny. He is a super smart guy and a monster cultivator. What's up, dude? Hold on. What else we got here? All right. I think I'm almost caught up. Yes. And then check it out. We always got one. This is not an Ed Grand live tonight, guys. You got to slow your roll on the questions right off the bat. You got to wait. All right. So let's do what I always do. I got to shout out my Patreon supporters. For real, if the Patreon supporters go away, this goes bye-bye. So I'm just telling you right now, everybody that has and is currently supporting me on Patreon, you guys are the reason that, thousands and thousands of people around this country and around the world get to enjoy the MycoGeeky Podcast. So thank you so much. I got to shout out Stealthy Spores. I keep getting these emails saying, another sale, another commission, another sale, another commission. I don't know if he sent any money to Myco Mamas yet. We got to be getting close to hitting some sort of threshold there. So maybe that's one of the questions I can ask him when I have him on the show. But if you guys have not yet already considered checking out 2024 Summer Deck Stealthy Spores, super cool thing, man. He's got all the cards. I'm telling you right now, I don't even forget this. This is cool. I like this. I definitely feel good about that. But I'll tell you, just overall, it's a real card game. It's fun. And when you're hanging out with your myco peeps, it's something to do. And it gives you a chance to talk about strains and to talk about some of the players in the community. It's just a good time. It was just really an exceptional thing that he did. So check that out. I think if you use promo code Geeky, you still get 10% off. I don't know if he had a real good sale going on for a while. I don't know if that's going on anymore. But yeah, check that out. All right. My friend Myco Dandy's in the house. She knitted me the most phenomenal MycoGeeky Afghan you will ever see in your life. She also is blowing up on TikTok and YouTube, so go check her out. What else we got going on? All right, I think we're good. We're good. So I'm gonna tell you right now, some of these podcasts are real hard to put together. I keep thinking I'm gonna get a bunch of them in the can, and I can just be ahead, and I can start doling them out, a week in advance to my Patreon supporters. In the last 2 years, I've been able to do that once or twice. I think maybe twice now. It's rough. It's hard to get people together between my schedule being hectic and everybody else's schedule being hectic, and StreamYard not working sometimes, and internet connections and all that stuff. It is pretty challenging. So this week, the guests I was supposed to have on this week, we're going to have on next week, because I'm doing about 5 times the editing that I'm used to doing, all because of internet connections. And we're doing our best, but I want the product to be great. I want the episode to be amazing. It's with a really, really cool guy that you guys got to get to know. So stay tuned next week. We're going to be talking with Jasper of Fungi Academy. He is an amazing guy. He's got a whole retreat center down in Guatemala. And he's all about the cultivation. He's all about the integration. He's about all the mushroom stuff. Had a really great talk with him. So we'll be doing that next week. All right. So this week, I mean, I couldn't tell by all the comments. You guys like this guy, right? I mean, I'm not the only one that's figured out this guy grows cubes, and he's got a literal PhD in mycology in the Lentinus genus. Like, there's nobody else like this guy on the planet. I mean, maybe Alistair McTaggart gets a little bit of credit. He's pretty close, but and he's doing really awesome genomic work right now. But Ed's a special dude, and I love him even more because he doesn't take himself too seriously. He shoots from the hip. He's a whole lot of fun. So without further ado, let's bring this guy on. All right, what's up, Ed?
How's it going?
God.
That's some good hype. That's good hype work, man.
Say,
Hi,
man,
everybody.
say, dude, if you ever do a TED Talk, I need to be your fucking crowd warmer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm kidding. All right, that would just be
Maybe someday. That would be
someday.
Really cool.
Ed,
but this is
Ed,
just as good.
This is, yeah. You know what I was when we did the episode on the Facebook debacle and all that stuff, and we had like 330 people live for that thing, and I'm sitting there going, man, I've been at some of these myco events, and some of the headliners aren't getting 300 people at them. So I'm like, yeah, this is cool. It shows you the community is showing up to get to know the community. And it's easy to do. You don't got to drive here and there and everywhere. All you got to do is log in. But yeah, man, this is a part of myceliating. This is a part of connecting to all the people in the community. So it's important. All right, dude.
Yeah,
so let's do this. Let's just catch up. You haven't been on in a second. Tell everybody what you've been up to.
Ooh, that's the hard part. So many little things. I guess continually doing crosses. I've been loving the diamond crossing in the bag. Just running through some of those generations, and every time I get to about an F2 or F3, I'm just like, I got like 5 or 6 more lined up. So just getting my phenos, cloning, getting the spores, and just stacking swabs,
Nice.
stacking paper,
Stacking swabs. Yeah. It's going to be like Al Pacino is going to play Ed Grant one day, just stacking swabs. Yes. In Thailand. 2 machine guns.
Oh, I could see that, dude. I could see that definitely happen, man. A big
great.
old pile of dirty swabs in front of me. Some miscellaneous white powders.
That'd be funny. Miscellanea. Yes.
My little entourage of ambiguous, androgynous people.
There you go. Well, over there, they are not so androgynous, are they? As confusing. Yes.
Oh,
it's just a little different. Or not confusing. Yeah.
They put a lot of effort into it. We had a lengthy discussion about that last night. The lines get really gray after a while. You're like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, man. We used to, I got a few people who hate it when I talk about when I lived in LA and when I worked in Hollywood. But when I did live in Los Angeles, And when I did work in Hollywood, early on in my little Hollywood escapades, we used to go to this diner after we'd, hit the clubs and do all that stuff. And there are always a lot of trans people there. And there a couple nights I was there with one of my stand-up comedian buddies, and just a lone woman walked in, and she was just drop dead gorgeous. And it wasn't until she like turned that the mini skirt she was wearing revealed something just barely. And I remember the look on his face was just, he had this look, he looked over and he goes, "Don't ruin this for me, guys." Anyway. All right, we did good. 15 minutes in, and we got our first we got our first trans joke. All right.
Yeah, I got some epic stories.
So
about that, but for
diamonds.
another time.
Diamonds. Let's get back to diamonds. Have you
Yes,
ever
diamond.
have you ever done a diamond on a plate and then got an in vitro pin?
Yes. Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, back when I was doing them on plates, but I quickly realized that like doing the plate was kind of unnecessary, so I just started doing them straight in my spawn bags. So yeah, I think when I first started off, I was doing that whole thing like, well,
Mhm.
where should I put the dikaryon and where should I put the mono? And then, how am I going to separate the new dikaryon from the old dikaryon? And then I
Right.
just realized, like, maybe I don't need to do all this. I don't need to wait 2 or 3 weeks to see that new dikaryon shoot out.
Right.
Like, it's going to form or it's not, and it's going to fruit or it's going to
Yeah.
not. So I just do it in
Yeah.
the bag, and when it fruits, I just clone it. So you don't even
Nice.
really need that first like F1 plate or
Right.
whatever. It's just like, let's do it in the bag and clone the fruit.
Man, I remember when you told me that because I was looking for. I remember when Kyler Diamond had these amazing photos of. I
Mm.
mean, he had the mon down here. He let the mon grow out. Then he put the dikaryon here, and they were just the most gorgeous plates. And then you have this new growth. So I thought I had to do that. And I mean, shout out to him. Those plates look
Mhm.
amazing. But when you told me, they don't always do that, but sometimes they are still clamping and crossing. I was like, oh no shit. And I ran a couple of those and yeah, it's true. So yeah, why
Yeah.
even bother?
I still have that
Straight to the
diagram on my wall. Yeah, I remember Kyler posting that at one point, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, wow, yeah, that
can
that
just
is
do this in a bag.
brilliant. But yeah, I can just do it in the
Yeah.
bag.
Bro.
It makes
I
beautiful
mean,
pictures, but
yeah.
you don't really. You can just use your imagination and
Exactly.
and
Well, and okay, that situation, I will say this. That situation lends itself to someone who both wants to breed and is going to just grow a bunch of fruit anyway.
Mm.
If you didn't just want extra grows or worry about extra fruit or anything, I mean, I guess there's something to be said for keeping it on the plate a little bit longer. But yeah, man, when you told me that, you're like, yeah, just throw that shit in the bag. And do you still do it that way where you put the mono in first, let it grow a little bit, and then add the dikaryon?
I put them at the same time
Now
now.
you just
Yeah,
okay.
because I don't like to open the bag multiple times, especially after it's been sitting out. It gets maybe a little bit of dust on it, and I just find that
Yep.
opening the bag the second time, it just adds an extra step. And so what I'll usually do is when I first put the agar pieces in, I let them grow out for about 3 or 4 days, and then I do a break and shake, and I make sure I just mash the heck out of them. So you'll
Right.
get that little dikaryon cluster of growth, and then you get like a little monokaryon like
Yep.
cluster, and then I just mash the hell out of them.
Mhm.
And then it's just it's pretty cool because sometimes you'll occasionally get the original. So I started doing it with blobs first. So
Mhm.
so originally, because you can't, the blobs don't make spores, so you can't do mon stuff. So you use a dikaryon blob, and basically sometimes you'll end up getting like you'll see a blob as well as the two new phenos. Sometimes you can actually
Right.
differentiate where each of those nuclei go to the mono. And so
Mhm.
you can end up with the original dikaryon as well as the two new phenotypes.
Oh yeah, so you're getting
Did I say
you're
dikaryon?
getting them both. Not
Well, all
always,
three of
but
them.
yeah, that's like when you just toss a T0 plate to grain, right? And then you grow it out. Sometimes you get one thing, and sometimes one dikaryon seems to just take over.
Mhm.
And then other times, if you get real lucky, then you get a bunch of phenos in the tub. Well, that makes total sense that it would be the same way, sometimes it'll do a single diamond cross, and sometimes it'll get real exciting and do them both.
Yeah, and there's variations on it too. You can do the dicaryon and then shoot a multi-spore syringe in it. I've seen people doing that. They used to do that back in the day. I've also seen where people will grow the mono, like prematurely grow the mono and then squirt like a multi-spore syringe in there also. Like there's variations on all of it. And yeah, it just kind of makes the possibilities. I mean, if you're shooting like a multi-spore syringe into, I don't know, like a dicaryon or a monocaryon halfway colonized bag of spawn, like gosh, I can't imagine. You could probably get 5 or 10 different phenos.
Man, I bet
That's
you're right.
the only problem with that is you don't have your original mono, right? So you don't have the parts. So if you're just shooting the spores in there, you're gonna end up like you're not gonna really have your original mono, which could be problematic later if you try to replicate it. But
who cares? It's a new mushroom.
There's all kinds
all
of
good.
ways to
Yeah, I
breed
never even
these
thought about that.
things.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just like a game. Okay, you
Mhm.
can do 2 mono LCs. Bam. Mono LCs. You can do grain this. Whatever you want to do. It's like just playing guitar. You just start doing it. Just whatever you want to do. Go for it. I love it.
Yes, remember that Plinko game they used to play on the
Yep.
Prices Right? It's got like
Yes.
but it's like you just shoot a bunch of spores in there and one of them or 2 of them or 3 of them are gonna come out off the bottom and
Yep.
yeah, and then you better make sure you got some plates ready to clone
Right.
because
I
you're
mean, well,
probably gonna
yeah,
want
you
to
can't
clone a
miss
lot of
that. That
stuff.
is, I mean, that's for everybody listening who's just getting going. If at any point in time you are harvesting a fruit that you fall in love with, clone it
Mhm.
and then grow that dikaryotic clone culture and
Yeah.
see what that tub looks like. Sometimes it will treat you really, really right. Sometimes it'll be okay. But yeah, you don't miss out on that. Don't just immediately dry that fruit. Take a tiny little piece of
Oh
it
yeah, and swab it too.
and
And
of course swab it. Yes. And
yeah,
keep notes on
because
what it is so you actually
take a
know,
picture,
what
of course. Yeah.
yeah.
Take a picture, of course, and make sure you have some discernible like date or reference number
Yeah.
or something in there so you know what picture that is,
Yep.
on your swabs.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. So now the one thing I like about spore prints is, at least with regards to size, they speak for themselves. So if you're, if you have a Cambodian, genetic, and normally they're about this big around, but for whatever reason you got a Cambo that was like this big around, you don't have to do any notes. It's right there.
mm,
You see that it's massive.
yeah,
But a clone culture,
exactly.
you would have to write big cap or something like that.
Yep. You
That
want to
also
label your
happens for
bags for
swabbing.
sure.
If you have one particularly massive fruit and the rest like average size fruits, when you're swabbing, you got to make the decision: are you going to delineate that all the swabs from that particularly large fruit or perfect fruit versus the other fruits? That's something I've never seen spore swab spore swab vendors do, is actually link, hey, these 10 are from this particular fruit that was an exceptional fruit versus like, so it's like, the house whiskey versus, the Jack Daniels special edition, whatever.
I have seen people will label it like clone 1, clone 2, or clone 1-2 or 1-3 and things, or 1-A or 1A. People have different ways of doing it. But yeah,
Yep.
but more details is better.
Yep.
Definitely where the record keeping is gonna save you a headache later. The cool thing about cloning, right? Because now people sell pretty much LC. So if you do get that perfect pheno, it's kind of like that perfect cut in cannabis,
Yep.
like you get that cut, man, and that could be the basis for an empire, basically. Like that
Right.
one cut.
I
saw
don't
one of
know if
the
there's empire capacity within the mushroom community, to be honest, but who knows?
man.
I could be
If you
wrong.
get that 10%,
I mean,
psilocybin.
yeah,
You
there you
get
go. That
that
10%.
mythical 10%
Yes.
cube.
Yes.
The
So,
unicorn.
well, hey, who knows? Because I had a bunch of people send me this YouTube video. Some dude, DIY biotech. This guy is like I don't know, some sort of biohacker or something like that. Or he's getting his PhD, or he has his PhD in, I don't know, genomic manipulation or whatever it
Something like
is.
that, bioinformatics or something like
I
that.
don't even know. But anyway, so there was this paper, Metabolic Engineering of Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is like baker's yeast, basically, for the de novo production of psilocybin and related tryptamine derivatives. De novo production just means like that the yeast does all the work. You don't have to like add a bunch of shit. I know I reached out to some guys from, I forget what university it was in Ohio, but some other guys used like a special E. coli strain to basically do the same thing, but they had to add a bunch of expensive enzymes and crap like that to make it work. So this paper was pretty novel because it's like they hack the genes in the yeast to basically make like 𝐸𝐾, 𝐸𝐴M, and 𝐸H and all these different pathways, you know, different enzymes and stuff. So basically that frickin' yeast just does it. Just makes psilocybin, man. It was pretty crazy.
Wild. I knew that eventually would get out. And I mean, somebody's going to get it out. You know, you just need like a tiny, tiny little drop of that original culture.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll be
So
widely
guys,
circulated.
all
within a
you
year
like
or so.
big super rich drug dealers out there that are like sell 19 different lines of drugs and you got a lot of money, all you got to do is hire a guy. The YouTube video's up there. I mean, you got to know what you're doing, but you can hire the right guy. And all you got to do, like I just said, you just got to make it once. But then you've ruined mushrooms for everybody. So then you're kind of the asshole.
Or you just need, it's like people used to go to like the Guinness brewery and get the the dregs at the bottom of the bottle. All
Right.
you need is that just like a little bit of that, the residue on the bottom of one of those flasks, or just, I mean, a swab or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody working, there's some student working in those labs who's going to be like, hey, I just need a couple of these yeast cells.
Just on Sunday afternoon when only the janitor's there.
Yeah.
They're doing a little work. Yeah. Now, so I got a question for you about that. I got that paper. Hold on. Let me grab it here. Give me a second. But one thing that I thought was cool about that video is he walked through the pathway and he highlighted that it was only in 2017 that they actually elucidated the entire pathway for the generation of psilocybin and psilocin, which of course all starts with tryptophan. But still, I was like, wow, really 2017. I think we all forget, especially those of us not actually in the scientific world, how new all this shit is. Like we just figured out the human genome, and then now we got AI that's going to figure out what it all means. And I mean, it's all happening very fast, very fast. All right, hold on. I think I got the video up, but let me see if I can pull up the. Give me a
It's
second.
pretty incredible, man. These things move so fast now, especially because the information is so readily available.
Yep.
And it's like once you get those sequences up there and that you've got the DNA sequences and we're going to cut this piece of DNA and put it over here, and then we're going to take this and cut it and put it over there. Yeah, and in something that's so simple, a model organism, they call it like yeast, you can just grow. If you've ever brewed beer, you can
But
just grow
when
big
that
batch.
guy was like, if you've ever made bread, when you go to the grocery store and you just buy that little packet, that little, innocent little packet of yeast.
Yeah,
that one day that innocent little packet of yeast, every $2 packet of yeast could generate like $5,000 worth of psilocybin.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Of course,
Crazy.
you got to extract it and things like that.
Oh,
You gotta
sure.
be
You
all the
got to
way-
do stuff to it. I know,
Yeah,
Ed.
yeah.
You
I don't know
got to
if
do stuff to it.
I don't know if you could just make like a, make some brew and just drink it. I don't know that.
Yeah,
might
it's like
not be
walking
very
around with
pleasant.
nitroglycerin. It's not a good idea. It's dangerous. Yeah. Yeah. The real issue, because they were cranking it out. When he said it was the equivalent of, God, I can't even remember, but it was an insane amount of doses off of 1 liter.
Yeah, it was something like 50,000 doses or something.
Insane.
It was something ridiculous. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, this is the first paper. This is their first stab at it. they're that successful with their first stab at it. And they figured out limiting factors, and basically, once you know that whole complicated chemical reaction, all you got to do is start hacking the genes and make it make all the parts that you need in the right amounts, and then it becomes a perfect factory. We do this for insulin and all that other kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
But there's no
that's
limit.
why. Yeah, probably why I didn't even think about it, but that's probably why they use yeast, because it's what they call a model organism, but it's a eukaryote. So the enzymes are the kind of like natural form of the enzymes. E. coli, which is a bacteria, doesn't have the proper, like the folding machinery, the post-transcriptional modification, they call it.
Way past me. I could follow him when he said like a prokaryote doesn't have the same sophisticated protein production that a eukaryote does. I was following that just fine. But and a yeast it's right there. It's not that far away from a mushroom. So
they're not that far from us, to be honest. When you look at the biochemical pathways, all the tryptophan, like all these modifications on the amino acids, tryptophan, like they're ubiquitous, kind of just, they're in everything pretty much. So it kind of underpins that whole kind of tree of life kind of idea. Like 4 billion years ago, or probably with yeast, probably maybe 2.5 billion years ago, we were all pretty close to each other. On the old,
which makes sense, because if we all started out the same, then we all started from the same stuff, so that kind of makes sense. All right, so let me get through to that part. This still cracks me up. I love that whoever these people are, I don't know if they're from, I think they're from Denmark. Denmark, Technical University of Denmark. I love that these trippy dudes out in Denmark, these high-tech scientists, like, I love this graphic right here. There's a little look at the little psilocybe species and the recombinant cerevisiae. Okay, cool.
I found that little kaleidoscopic button on my PowerPoint the other day. I was drawing. I figured out how to draw on PowerPoint and share the screen. So if we ever get, we could be talking about this stuff for like hours and hours. Or this might be a long one if we really start getting into it.
Yeah. But now, so he was talking about here. Okay, so I can't tell. Do you guys see my my mouse swirling around? Okay, cool.
I can see it.
He was saying right here, this CRTDC, I forget what it's called. Where is it here?
Could be a cytochrome oxidase or something like that.
Yeah, I just forget the freaking actual.
There's one sort of like generic, I think it's called P450 cytochrome.
There it is. Yeah, P450. Yep, cytochrome like P450. So this was the one that they first identified as the real limiting factor for producing enough of it from their first test. So they're like, okay, we're gonna hack that, and then we hacked a little the 𝐸 we hacked a little the 𝐸, and the next thing you know, we're making just an absolute shit ton of psilocybin and psilocin.
No. See, I wish they would have showed me that pathway in biochemistry class. It would have been a lot more interesting instead of the Krebs cycle or the TCA or whatever else.
I still can't remember. Was it 32 or 33, man? I don't even remember how many ATP molecules was generated. I just remember 30, going back and 30? 32, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Depending on whether it's like aerobic or anaerobic and all this. That was one of the reasons I didn't actually study biology, because I had a hard time remembering that stuff because it just wasn't that interesting.
Yep.
Now, if they would have showed me that and been like, look, this is the biosynthetic pathway. This is why P4.
This is how you get people.
Anything.
You just go, I can teach you how to make drugs, and then everybody becomes a chemistry major.
Yes.
Now, so check this out. Did you read this part? They figured out that they had also generated a bit of dephosphorylated aerugination. So the guy was talking about how it could theoretically be possible to even figure out all the extra tryptamine alkaloids and like really dial in this yeast so that it was extremely similar to different strains. You could have a different yeast dialed in for, you could basically have your baker's yeast that acts like 𝐥𝐤𝐤, that acts like tidal wave, that you know what I mean, it could really get very, very sophisticated very fast.
Yeah, and you can put like what are called promoters on certain regions, like say a particular
Yep.
enzyme that you want to upregulate it. You can
Yep.
give it some sort of extra substrate that might be particular for that
Yep.
that kind of promoter, and it's all like kind of
Oh yeah,
yeah, you
he was
basically
saying they can
turn in
hack all
switches and
that. Yeah, just
mm,
literally, I forget where it was in here. Promoter. Oh yeah, the TEF1 and the TEF2 right here.
oh yeah.
They
Yeah,
were
I didn't
talking
actually
about
see
that.
this paper. I just saw the I saw the YouTube video of the guy talking about it, but I didn't
Yeah.
actually see the real paper.
But what was it hurt a little bit to hear him talking about this, but they get into it right here with the impending approval of psilocybin as a pharmaceutical drug that the manufacturer's supply should be considered. So then here they're basically saying that the content of psilocybin and psilocin and psychedelic mushrooms is too low to make extraction a commercially viable option. And then they go on to talk about how that psilocybin preparations for pharmaceutical research rely on these really expensive, chemical syntheses, and they're difficult, they're expensive. That's not viable either. And then, right, this is like the classic how your total flex as a research scientist. You're like, but we figured how to just take little old baker's yeast and mass produce insane amounts of this stuff
I know it's
with only a little front end work, and then once it's all done, you're done. I mean, it's pretty shocking. This paper is the beginning, my guess, of a lot of research.
yeah, yeah, totally renewed. There's going to be a whole new generation of biochemists that are going to see that, and they're going to go on to do other great things. Because once you learn those techniques, you can apply them to so
Yeah.
many other things. Once you get that, you got the centrifuge, and you've got the pipettes, and you've got the PCR thermocycler,
Yeah.
and you get like it's like other stuff is so much easier to do once you get that basics of like all that manipulation.
Yep.
What
It's
a
like my kids
P20
with
pipette is.
gymnastics. Dude, once you can do that back handspring, then everything starts just rocking and rolling. Yep. Once you can do a couple fun lab things, then it starts getting easier. So there you go, guys. If you're watching and your parents are yelling and complaining that you're doing nothing with your life, go get a degree and learn how to make cool drugs for really cheap and get super rich doing it. There you go. That's all you got to do. Because once the world figures this out, none of us are going to be able to make enough mushrooms for these people. I mean, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. They need help. Yeah, we got to get them psilocybin. The way to do it right there.
Yeah, the great thing is all this is literally within the reach of the average guy with a garage
Right
or
now.
a basement. Yeah,
Yeah.
or girl. Yeah, this literally, it's like this is the kind
Yeah.
of stuff you can set up in a spare bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you can just order all the enzymes and whatnot online, all this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like incredible what's happened in the last,
I mean, just the
20 years.
legality aspect of it. But yeah,
Mm.
yes, you could definitely do that. No one should do that, but you can definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all,
Yeah.
what is it? Theoretical. Or
All
what,
theoretical.
What do people
We're
say?
having an abstract talk about all
Yes.
this. Yes. I'm not doing any of this stuff.
No, heavens no.
I definitely don't have
I
the
would
time
never
for
break
that.
the law.
Yeah, the real problem though, is the people who grow mushrooms are not the people who become chemists. That's not usually the same thing. Now I know that's your background, and we know a couple other people who got chemistry backgrounds that do grow mushrooms, but it's really a different world, right? Getting your hands dirty, mixing substrate, picking mushrooms, swabbing them. That's not the same as, chemistry, rotovapes and fractions and measuring shit and heating things up and then cooling it down. It's a whole nother world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I was gonna actually do another workshop about the chemistry of some of the things that we do, and maybe an extraction.
Ooh.
Another one of my workshops. I did a workshop
Yeah.
the other day, just a breeding workshop. I had a whole syllabus kind of thing printed out. I think we got like 5. We got down to like 5 of these things for 4 hours, and yeah, I wanted to do another one that was basically like the chemistry for mycologists. Like, the things like what's the difference? Like when you're doing extractions, what's a polar solvent, a non-polar solvent?
Right.
things like that.
pH would be a great thing
Yeah,
too. Yeah, just to actually
for sure.
understand pH a little bit. Or, it's easy to just go along and go, here I go, here's some gypsum. But do you know why you're putting gypsum in there? Do you know
Yeah,
why
I
you're
do.
putting gardener's lime in there? What that's all about, what it's doing? That'd be a fun one, dude. Man, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's surprising. Even the cannabis people, I watch a lot of the cannabis stuff, and that Mr. Grow It guy, he had a whole like a hour and a half episode with this guy talking about just that. And it's amazing the people that have been growing cannabis for 20, 30 years, they don't really have a full grasp of things like pH. Like
Right.
they don't understand like what tap water, the hard tap water, that's basic, and how to, pH down. Like they don't know what pH down is. It's just like, oh, I put some phosphoric acid in there, but they don't really even
Right.
know what that is. He's talking about using like vinegar instead of phosphoric acid and things like this. And
Right.
people just don't, they just miss that part of high school, which is totally understandable
Yeah.
because maybe they were out in the parking lot getting, they were
I mean,
skipping
they were
class or
just
whatever.
trying to get to second base, Ed.
Yeah,
They're just
exactly.
trying to get to second base.
See,
That's
while I
all
was
they
sitting in the
care about.
library, reading books, they were
Yes.
out feeling
Yeah.
boobies or something.
Feeling boobies. That's what they were doing, not listening. Yeah. I mean, isn't it kind of crazy though? Just and I can say this because I'm watching it with my kids. Like we're just teaching them all this crap. The truth is, everything you learn by 12th grade, you could probably not teach your kids any of it. You could wait till they were 18 and they could probably learn it all in 4 years. Like it's not, or you could just let them learn this crap on their own.
Yeah.
There's such a hurry, there's such a rush in the country to like hurry up and figure out who the smart kids are so we can turn them into engineers and doctors and scientists so that during wartime we have a competitive advantage against China and Russia and we don't want to die. Right? Like it's so dumb. So dumb.
Yeah, that's a whole big old can of worms. Yeah.
That's another channel.
What's
That's
the
another.
alternative? So, yeah, that's the. And what are your kids going to be doing if they're not in school?
They're going to
running
be
the
looking for
streets.
mushrooms with me every day.
Yeah, that's true.
Night hikes
Could
with
be
the UV light. Yes.
mountain biking and fishing,
Mountain
and finding
biking.
mushrooms.
Yeah, man, what they're supposed to be doing.
Sounds good. What is that? So some kind of school system,
Oh, Montessori. Yeah, I did that. Yeah. Montessori's cool.
Yeah.
I learned how to teach myself shit in Montessori school. Yep.
Yeah.
I
They have
like
one of those here. Apparently, they pay really well. I didn't. My friend was like, "You should go work there."
Do it.
They
I just
charge a
remember
lot.
there was a lot of freedom. And if you were really interested in something, then that was encouraged at the expense of things that you were not interested in, which made total sense to me. Like force me to learn something that I don't care about right now. Maybe I'll care about it in 2 years. Let me learn this thing that I'm really interested in. Yeah, makes sense. Now, my favorite thing about Montessori school, though, is the Montessori method for potty training your kid. So the problem with America, and I mean, there could be a lot of things to follow that
that's
statement
a pretty
right now.
open-ended question.
But with regards to the old diaper situation, is we got these super absorbent diapers. So when the kids pee themselves, it's not uncomfortable for them. So they can walk around in their little soggy diaper for a while and it doesn't even bother them. So the Montessori method is you got to wear a cloth diaper. And when that kid craps themselves in a cloth diaper, it is a trauma. And so you get that kid gets potty trained very quickly. Very quickly. There's something to be said for that. Something to be said for, putting yourself in that situation that encourages you to try something else.
Yeah, that is kind of like leaving the burner on low. It's just like,
Yeah.
go ahead. You could go see what happens when you touch that like burner on low or
Yes. Yeah, man. There's a Mark Twain quote about that. I forget what it is, but yeah, it's really true.
Yeah, definitely. I learned that the hard way, but still sometimes but yeah, that would be considered child abuse, by some, but
Yeah. Here it
a little
is.
careful.
Here it is. Mark Twain, he said, We should be careful to get out of an experience only the wisdom that is in it and stop there, lest we be like the cat that sits down on a hot stove lid. She will never sit on a hot stove lid again, and that's all well and good, but she will also never sit down on a cold one. Mark Twain, smart guy. Might be why he's famous.
Yeah, I think
we don't know all of the other guys that were writing books and shit like that during Mark Twain's time because they weren't as good. Yeah. All right, so let's see. We talked about yeast and psilocybin. So keep growing your mushrooms. But pretty soon we might not need to. I'm kidding, guys. Never stop growing your mushrooms. I will never stop growing them, but
well, people like the aesthetics, you know. It's kind of hard to argue with, like, you know, that beautiful fruit and then you eat it later, and it kind of combine it like adds to the whole experience. I was showing some fresh fruit to some of my buddies a couple weeks ago, and people that didn't even, they were just like, I want to eat that.
Yeah.
They were just looking at these beautiful albinos that were nice. They were white, and I took them over there and they started touching them and they started bruising.
Yeah.
And this person who I never would have expected to want to, you know, first time, and they just ate one, and yeah, like an hour later they were like, oh, it's like you just see it, like things turning on in their brain. They're just like,
yeah, man.
And then the next day they're like, can you show me how to do that? Like, how did you make those? Like,
yep.
Well,
yeah, man. I mean, the reason I say all this jokingly, because I'm just not even worried. It's the same reason that you hear about these people. Oh, they were a Wall Street banker and they were making $400,000 a year. But they were ready to kill themselves, so they quit and they moved to a small farm in upstate New York, and now all they do is grow lavender.
Yeah.
You don't ever hear the other story. You don't ever hear farmer who grows lavender, suicidal, decides to quit, go get a finance degree, and work on Wall Street, right? Like, it never goes the other way. Because our fucking DNA isn't designed for the Industrial Revolution and all this stuff, right? Our DNA is old and ancient, and we're used to using our hands to do stuff and building things and thinking and problem solving. And when the society turns you into the robot, there's just some people go, I don't want to be the robot anymore, right? It's the Matrix. You just go, get me out of this pod.
Yeah, and there's something sort of innately human about creating stuff, you know, creating your own thing.
Yes.
Some of the greatest times I had were working in a grocery store, like stocking shelves, because when I worked that 8-hour shift, I could walk down that store aisle, you know, Myers or what, and I could see what I had done. It's like, look at that perfect shelf. All the cans are faced.
Yep.
Everything is stocked perfectly nice, and like, look at what I did. And then I went home and just was like, I did a good day's work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I deserve that pay.
Yes. But you can physically see it and show people and go, what'd you do? Like, if you lay brick, what'd you do today?
Yeah,
I laid 13 courses of brick on that wall over there today. That's what I did.
Yeah, woodworking too, man. If you
all the trades, any of that. Artists, what did you do today? It's right there. You can look at it. That's what I did. Like a stockbroker, what'd you do today? Nothing. I sat in the desk. I clicked buttons.
Part of my soul. Got 1 day closer to death. Probably 2 days because of the stress I had to endure. Oh, but look, I made some of this like fake money on the internet that like
I made money by playing games with money. And I feel really special for having done it. Yes. Yeah, man. That stuff doesn't there's no gratification in that. And when you make money by manipulating people and by tricking people and all that stuff, taking advantage of people, at the end of the day, your soul is empty. You don't sleep well at night. Yeah, it's no good. So all you people that are about to go try to make yeast psilocybin, that's the soulless psilocybin, guys. There's no soul in that baker's yeast psilocybin, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I've never really gotten into the extracts or anything like that. There's something about like when I make my kratom tea, like I dry
the leaves. Yeah.
I get fresh leaves and I dry them out and then I kind of crush them a little bit and I make tea and I just love it. it adds to the whole process. And it's, you know, if it was like some little, like a tincture or whatever, or just a little jar of powder, like it just wouldn't be the same. What was that
It's
comment?
not.
I didn't.
It's not the same. Oh no, that it just click the like button, guys, if you're watching. I know you get so caught up waiting for Ed's next joke or seeing what paper we're gonna pull up next, but don't forget to hit that like. These days, YouTube doesn't give two craps about subscribers. They don't care. I could have one subscriber and I could go viral, and the next day I could still have one subscriber, and YouTube just doesn't care. So yeah, it's all about the likes. They're really trying to see who's watching everything and liking it and commenting on it and all that stuff. So that's the big takeaway. Click that freaking like button, guys. What do I gotta do?
There's guys over here that have 300,000 subscribers, but nobody likes and nobody comments, and then like they just disappear.
Yeah.
And you know, like, how did this person possibly get like 200,000 subscribers? But
I don't know.
They're just
yeah. Some of these, it's really
advertising,
weird.
right? So-
Some of these channels, you'll have one guy, man, every once in a while, like trying to solve. Right now, I'm learning a lot about video editing, and I'll find, ask a very specific question. I'll find a video. It's phenomenally well done, edited. The guy's great, or the gal's great, explaining everything. And then you look and you're like, 410 subscribers, but that video got like 38,000 views. You're like, so 38,000 people watch this video, very specific video on video editing, and only 400 of them clicked subscribe. Like, okay, all right, there you go. Now you know. Doesn't matter. Where are we at? I'm just trying to keep.
Luckily, neither of us are living off our YouTube content.
Oh my god. Oh my god. For a hot second, I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be able to quit my job. I just keep making these videos. It's like Amway. It's like a pyramid scheme. If I make enough of them, all those little dollars are going to start adding up. And then I did the 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐬 video, and that one was almost instantly demonetized. And from that point on, they just started working backwards. And now, I mean, I even had, when I had the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿 on, the Alabama, talking about Alabama Mushroom Festival and all that stuff, they demonetized that one. We never talked about psilocybin. We never talked about magic mushrooms. I fought it. I still got it turned down. I rewatched it. I could not figure out why that one got demonetized. I don't know. Algorithm doesn't care. The algorithm does not care.
Probably has probably something to do with the advertisers that they're trying to focus on, or something didn't jive right with the advertisers. Or
well, they keep advertising on all these videos.
Yeah,
they just don't pay me for it. Yeah. So that's why the Patreon is so important, man. Because I'm not vending. I'm not, there's all I'm selling is my time and hard work for bringing people on here. So that's why the Patreon had to happen. I resisted it for a long time, and now I pretty much rely on it. So, all right, let's do this. So I finally had I was talking with a couple people, and I realized it's pretty common for people in a given week to send me some of the same stuff. So whether it's like the yeast video, I remember when that kid got busted in New Hampshire, right? 100 people sent me that video. So I did talk about that one, but I'm trying to get better at responding to some of these hot button topics, just so we can talk about them. So one of the ones that came up is, with the advent of AI, everybody, now everybody's an artist, everybody's a musician, and everybody is a book author now. And unfortunately, there are people, it's a grift, right? They write these ebooks and sell them on the cheap, and people buy them, and people are buying mushroom identification books that are written by AI.
Ooh. I forgot about that. This is that was crazy dangerous.
Why would you do that?
Road to go down.
I bought this book Field Guide to Wild Mushrooms of Pennsylvania and the Mid-Atlantic, and pretty much, all the East Coast. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Retail is $25. I got it for $16, or I think maybe I got it for $20. It's phenomenal, and it's written by a human being who loved mushrooms his entire life, Bill Russell, and finally wrote a very practical book about it. I don't know about you, man, but anybody that's just trying to save a couple bucks and buys the AI robot book version,
No way.
I got no sympathy.
No.
I guess maybe if you got to worry about kids that don't know better, I guess I can start having a little more sympathy there. But I mean, come on. Why? This is not when you want to buy where you trust an artificial intelligence more than you trust human expertise from decades and decades. How do people do that? I don't get it.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I remember somebody was like, postulating last year that there might be books written by AI, and I was just like, no way, that would be a horrible, horrible decision to, especially considering the amount of misinformation on the internet. I can't imagine that the AI is drawn from those large language models or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's so much false information on the internet that I can't imagine it would come to some consensus based on that information onto whether or not you should trust your life with eating this particular mushroom.
Yeah. And not even that, man. I had them those two from Rhode Island on that do all the forays and stuff. And when I was recording that, I forgot what it was exactly, but Emily said something about, oh, well, you can eat that one. And her husband got really upset and was like, you can't tell people on a podcast they can eat something. He's like, what if? And at first I was like, I mean, you can eat that one, but he made a really good point. He was like, but he goes, you don't know, like you didn't actually point to that mushroom, nor does that person actually see it up close and in person. So he's like, if you tell them, yeah, you can eat this mushroom, and they're just watching this podcast on their phone, and then they go accidentally eat the wrong mushroom. So I was like, you know what? He's exactly right. You gotta be. The only time I'm going to tell somebody they can eat a mushroom is if they're standing next to me, we're holding the mushroom, and I go, I know what this mushroom is. I'm going to go eat it. You can come eat it with me.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it was them, but somebody else you had on or them mentioned also, if you're on a foray and you hear like maybe somebody 3 or 4 people away say, oh, you can eat this. And they start passing the mushroom around. And by the time it gets to the person that overheard, it's the wrong mushroom. Yeah.
It's like the wrong mushroom. Yes.
Yeah. And all they associate that you can eat this with this mushroom that, it's like that telephone game. Like it's not the right mushroom.
Yep. Yeah. That reminds me, so Galerina marginata makes its way onto some logs with some edible active mushrooms for sure. And you always got to be careful. And there was another ID where everybody's debating if there were 2 species or 1 species in this photo. Of course, there weren't enough good photos, but everybody's trying to make a good educated guess on it because it was fun. And man, I really spent some time on that thing. And I got convinced that, well, a couple of these were probably the older mushroom and a little more desiccated and dried out. And so that's why the cat morphology is different. These other ones are probably just younger, a little more vibrant brown coloring. And then eventually, like some of the heavy hitter PhD experts on those on the genera in question were like, it's our opinion that this is probably 2 mushrooms. So I was like, see, even though I took the time, I thought I had a good hunch. I was wrong. It was 2 different mushrooms. It was not 1 mushroom. And that stuff happens all the time. You find a big old spread of pancyans or whatever, and you got to be careful. You got to look at every single one of those mushrooms. Basically got to ID each one and make sure that's what it is.
Yeah, the small, pancyans are good at the, the liberty caps and things like that, or the people that go out and just like they assume any mushroom growing on a cow patty is like cubensis, and there's a
Yep.
lot of mushrooms that grow off cow
Yeah.
shit, like you don't
Yep.
just eat. But yeah, of course, if
Uh,
it turns blue.
just
Oh
because
yeah, like
it's on,
Galarina.
just because it's on cow shit does not mean it's the one you're looking for. Yeah.
I just love it
I
that
mean,
people randomly go eat mushrooms growing off cow shit. It's
well, you should have seen us on our first trip to Mexico. That we found some pans, and then we started seeing. At the time, we didn't know it was Cinctillus, but it was like some
Mm.
smaller Cinctillus, but our capsize much bigger than Senescence. And we got real excited. We were recording content of like, look at this big pan cyan, and I forget if it was Alan or one of the guides came up and was like, oh, that's Cinctillus. Okay. Yep. You gotta know your shit.
Yeah.
And just when you think you do, you don't. Yep. As long as you're willing to, not be so arrogant as like, just if you're wrong, just say you're wrong. It's fine. It doesn't fucking matter. Your life isn't dependent on being right in that one moment. Cool. You were wrong. Who cares?
I know.
We got real excited for a minute, and then we learned something. That's all.
Yeah, you learn a lot from your mistakes. I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
You'll probably never ever see that. You'll never make that mistake again.
I
You
will
learn
not.
so
No.
much from
Yeah.
mistakes. It's just
Yeah, I tell you what, and I felt this way when I went through my nursing program and became a nurse. They do so much. What is the term? Pedagogy? Is that the term? I forget what the term is.
yeah.
Right? It's too much book shit, and it's like, man, the stuff you really need to learn about nursing is all at the bedside. Even the complex, multi-system disruptions and multiple pathological things going on at the same time is still all it needs to be learned at the bedside, because you have to see the inputs and the outputs and the physical symptomology, and you can't just read a blurb about it and memorize a factoid. It just doesn't work that way. Just like with mushrooms, right? Like we try to teach some of this stuff, and some of it you just got to grow a bunch of mushrooms before you figure it out. There's no really like sentence you can write that makes you not have to have the experience of growing a bunch of mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal.
With the forays too, that like going to that NAMA foray. I mean, when you actually touch the mushroom, and like if you've ever had like a Cantharellus, like a chanterelle and like a jack-o'-lantern in your hands,
It's
you
not
can
even.
immediately, they're like totally different. And
Yeah.
it's the density, the kind of just
Oh,
like
yeah.
sort of the texture of them,
Yep.
and you're just like, these are clearly different.
Yep.
But when you see them in two pictures in a book, you're just like, those kind of look the same.
Sure.
But as soon
Yeah.
as you pick up that jack-o'-lantern mushroom and you see its texture and it's flopping around, you're just like, that's clearly not a chanterelle. Like if you know what a chanterelle, and you're just like, oh, that's really, really obvious.
Yeah, so you can learn like the 30 Latin descriptive terms for each mushroom, or you can just hold it and look at it and smell it and rip it apart and cut it and play with it, and then you also know. Yeah, from about 20 feet away as you're coming up on them, there might be a split second where you go, wow, those shants are big, and then you walk closer and you're like, oh, jack-o'-lanterns.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
crap. Like I knew I shouldn't have, that was the biggest cluster. I thought I found the world's biggest cluster of shants.
Yep.
And you're like, oh no. But they glow in the dark.
They do. Yeah, man, Alan told me, he said, I think he was talking about the jacks. He said he set his camera up all night. He left the shutter open all night to get this just phenomenal picture of them, right? So they're very dimly bioluminescent.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you're gonna just walk out and they're just these glowing clusters of it's not like that. You would have to stay in the dark in pitch black for probably a half hour, and then maybe just get the faintest sense of it. Yeah.
So I grew a block one time. My advisor was also working with Omphalodus, and he had cultures, and so I learned about that bioluminescent thing, and I grew a sawdust block. And yeah, I put it in our dark room, and I had one of those it was an old manual Nikon camera, and it had one of those like kind of like cords, those little like, like
Yeah.
coaxial cable
Bro,
things.
you are
So I
dating
had to
yourself with that one.
yeah, I had to push it down, and it had a little like lock nut on it, lock screwy thing.
Yeah, it screws in and
8
then
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you push it and then kind of turn it to lock it down.
Oh my God.
I exposed it for 8 hours with like slide film that was, I don't remember what ISO rating, but it was quite sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could barely see it on the slide after 8 hours of the camera on a tripod with it fully open.
Yep.
And I one time I think I saw it in the woods after walking around for about 2 hours. I saw something glowing, and I went over, and it was actually mushrooms. I don't recall if they were Omphallotus, but we had been walking around in the woods. We were probably on other mushrooms too, so your pupils are all dilated. Right. So I had opened my apertures, and I saw something on sort of the corner of my eye, and like, oh, but I was not in any.
Yeah, and if you just eaten a few more mushrooms, they all would have been glowing, dude.
I know. This was my friends verified it. It was actually glowing.
Nice. I believe you. I believe you.
I was at like F4 or whatever. I was like,
but that's like, why do people? I mean, we are really in an era where we don't trust experts. Right. I mean, how many people, and I mean, of course, you're not always right. I've watched other mushroom experts be proven wrong in different cases, but like generally speaking, your first gut instinct is at least worth listening to because you have both a chemistry degree from a phenomenal university, and you have a PhD in mycology from, I don't know if it was then, but I know it's now pretty much one of the great universities for mycology in the United States. So like you at least should warrant a bit of respect if you're not making, a trans joke and you're actually talking about science, at least give you a listen. Like, I mean, it just blows my mind how many people go, bah! But I barely graduated high school and I don't know anything about science and I've not gone to college, but I'm going to argue with the guy with a PhD in mycology. And I'm not saying that guy can't be right sometimes too, but odds are it's worth taking a listen to what you got to say. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I missed out on that trend. I don't know, I've been gone for 19, 20 years, so I don't know when that trend started. That's a bit odd to me.
Here's when it started right here, dude, when these things
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, somebody said like
World Wide Web.
I think somebody said 2011 or something. I don't know. There was some hallmark. The iPhone 9 or something came out, and that just was like,
how many people go to see the doctor in the emergency room? I'm sitting in the room. I'm treating a wound, or I'm drawing blood, or whatever, and so I'm listening to them powwow with the doc, and the doc has a treatment plan, and they go, well, but my friend Sophie got such and such. And do you know how many times these doctors have to go, you and your friend Sophie are two different people? Just because Sophie got treated a certain way doesn't mean that is the right way for you to be treated. But they preemptively, they think they heard a story a week ago from their friend and their symptoms sound about the same, and they remember what the doctor did for them. So they come in, they've already diagnosed themselves off an anecdote, and then want to prescribe their own treatment plan for themselves. And the doc will be like, so Geeky's drawing some blood right now, and then we're going to go down for a CAT scan. We're going to wait for the radiologist to do the read, and then I will give you a diagnosis. People fucking argue with these doctors anyway.
That would be so frustrating. I can't.
Every day, I would say these days, half the patients will on some level argue with the doctors. Some of them just overtly, clearly have zero respect for him. And it's like, bro, you came to the doctor.
Wow, that's incredible.
Then why are you arguing with the guy you came to? I don't get it. And there's also a real belief these days by some people that like you shouldn't trust any doctor on earth. The vast majority, I work with like 40 ER docs. The there's really only two that I don't like. And if I walked into the ER and they were there, I'd probably walk out and go to somewhere else. All the rest of them are great. And they all practice about the same ER medicine. So just don't trust anybody but my own Google search. It is real weird for me.
Maybe
I don't
that's
get
like
it.
natural selection a bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
But yeah,
hard.
speaking of that, Baron brought up this one, and I actually have it queued up here. So let me pull it up. So going off the AI, the AI foraging advice, there is also, here we go. Let me pull this off. Give me a second. All right.
Oh, I think I saw this.
Here we go. 11 members of Amish family hospitalized after eating toxic mushrooms. The youngest to ingest the poisonous mushrooms was a 1-year-old infant. 11 members Amish in Pennsylvania. Mass casualty. Wow. 11. They were just like going to town. I've been in the woods a lot. I've never stumbled upon an Amish family foraging for mushrooms yet. I don't know if they ever figured out the type.
Yeah, that's weird. And feeding it to their whole family. Oh my gosh, that was. Yeah, there was a woman over here.
Weird.
She supposedly, you guys probably heard about it. It turned out she was trying to poison her family. She had some, I think it was Amanita phalloides, and she somehow managed to get some of it. And she killed, I think it was like her husband and a couple like in-laws and maybe I think like a neighbor. And it turns out she was actually purposely trying to do it, but I guess she was convicted of it. But
I mean, I've seen enough period drama on Netflix to know like that's the way you do it. You
Yeah,
go get
back in the
go get a
day.
poisonous
Like-
mushroom or some nightshade or some flowers, and you just make a tea. That's what you do. I'm again not endorsing you guys go murder anybody with mushrooms or tea, but it does work, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, we were talking about that with the fatal vows, I think is on YouTube, and these, arsenic and all these other things that used to be readily available at the hardware store.
Yeah. I mean, just a dash of arsenic in your Coca-Cola, made it taste a lot better back in the day. That was I'm kidding.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Yeah, here, drink this, honey.
Yeah, man.
I don't know why you're vomiting afterwards, but here, drink more.
Man, speaking of that, these chemicals that in a lot of Europe are outlawed because they've been proven to be bad for us, and how many of those like are absolutely in everything we frickin' eat here. Like our policymakers do not care about us.
The GRAS, the generally regarded as safe. Yeah, there's tons of stuff in America that are on that GRAS list that are like totally forbidden in Europe.
Yeah.
I think they won't even allow like American style bread in Europe because it's like considered a dessert.
Wow. Yeah.
Like Wonder Bread is considered a dessert in Europe.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, here we go. All right, Terry Olson, inside scoop. All my Amish neighbors hunt just for morels. Yeah. Of course they do, because they're worth a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, could be.
They're worth a lot of money. Those Amish people know how to make bucks. Yeah, so they heard those morels fetch big money, and next thing you know, they're out finding every single one of them.
Oh yeah, well I'm sure you remember when the springtime you go up to one of those morel festivals even 30 years ago and you see morels going for 30-40 bucks a pound. You're like, wait a minute, I can make, some people that's that month of May and early June.
Mother's
like
Day,
their
man.
Income.
Yep.
That's like their income for the year.
Yep.
It's like,
yeah, when I go foraging with Happy, he's like, you gonna eat those? Because if not, I got 3 people that buy every single one I find if I don't want them for myself. Like they're just people on his list of people that never don't want morels from him.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw even here in Bangkok, there's somebody selling the white and black truffles now.
Oh.
And they're like crazy expensive. I don't know. It was they're typical like prices for if they're the real thing. the black truffles. I don't
Yeah,
recall
they're
the prices
expensive.
exactly, but they weren't cheap.
Yep. Mushrooms cost a lot of money. Harder to find they are, the more they cost. Harder to cultivate they are, the more they cost. Yep. And you know what? Boy, we just eat them all now with reckless abandon. And so I guess the takeaway tonight is learn how to ID mushrooms from people. All you got to do, like, I remember when we first started talking on here, dude, you would just be like, if you live by a university, you probably live by a mycology society of some sorts. Find those people, go out on forays, learn from people. Hopefully not the people writing the AI books, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually one of the first courses I took. I got a couple guides and I was just overwhelmed by it. Even back then, I was overwhelmed by the sometimes like somewhat conflicting or contrasting information in this guide. And this species is in the Audubon guide, but it's not in the other guide. And it's like, so I ended up taking a course with this guy, Robert Schaefer at U of M. He was the guy who sort of replaced Alexander Smith. And he became kind of like my guru for a little while. I just like admired him, and then he made me his sort of tutor, and that it just all went downhill from there, or uphill, downhill. That's when I realized like maybe I don't want to do chemical engineering. It seems kind of boring. Kind of want to study mushrooms now.
There you go. Yeah. Did you ever I took a really cool class. I can't remember the professor's name now. It was really hard to get in. I actually had to pull strings to get in it. I think it was just called Trees and Shrubs. But the professor, like, you wouldn't even go to class. We just wandered around looking at trees and shrubs the whole time. It was the coolest class, man, I ever took. I forgot it all, of course, but at the time it was really cool. Yeah, U of M's a monster university, man. People do not appreciate. I think, especially I'm here in Ohio, so they hate on it anyway. But there's some phenomenal. How many times you read a paper that said a recent study from, and how many times is it University of Michigan? Like half the freaking time, man. They're doing a lot of research there. It's a good point.
Oh yeah, the medical center, and like you said, the arboretum, and then they had that. There was what was it off of camp? It was a little bit off campus. They had this like botanical gardens. I don't recall what it was. There was the Nichols Arboretum that was like sort of close to campus by the medical center, and then there was another place we would go out there for our botany labs. Yeah, and we would just wander around and identify trees, and this heck of a lot funner than sitting in engineering classes.
It's a lot funner for sure.
Thermodynamics, or the difference between an oak and maple tree.
No, not a contest for me. Yeah, man. I'm excited because I'm getting into IDing trees because my kids really are enjoying it. And so I got them. They're getting pretty good. They can ID a few types of maple, a few oaks. We're getting some. What else are they're able to do? Black cherry, some elm, beech, all that stuff. But I just poplar. That's the best. That's their favorite. They think they're flexing so hard when they ID the tulip poplar. Yes, but now I'm about to up their game. Because I just got Winter Tree Finder.
Oh, there you go.
Identifying deciduous trees of Eastern North America by their twigs and bark.
Yep, there you go.
Bam! Twigs and bark. I don't need no leaves. I don't need no blossoms and flowers. Just hand me a pile of fucking sticks and let me look at some bark. That's all I need now.
Tree IDing, man, that's like a gateway to mushroom taxonomy, because you're gonna be like, well, I figured these trees out. Now if I know what mushroom, like morels, like I found a lot of morels under tulip poplars. So then you're getting to where like I can identify trees from like 100 meters from the road. So then you're not really looking in the woods, like at the ground. You're looking at the trees, and you're like, oh, that looks like an old apple tree. Or that's a cherry tree, or that's an elm. Like you see that bark falling off the elm trees, those like 6-inch dead elm trees, and you're like, I need to stop here now.
Right. 100%. Speaking of that, I just found a maitake in my yard. There's in the backyard. All my oaks are in the front yard. And the nearest tree is just one silver maple. And I'm thinking, and it's growing in the ground. It's nowhere near the tree. Now it is roughly by a large root that I sometimes hit when I'm mowing. So I'm like, so did I like keep hitting that root?
Mm-hmm.
And now there's just like some little wood chips there. I don't even know, but anyway, it's the weirdest thing. I have to do a video of it tomorrow and post it. But just when you think you get the stuff figured out, then they break the rules. Just never know.
Yeah. Maybe there could be an old stump under the ground too, or
Yeah,
it could
but
be actually one of the roots from the oak. You know, the canopy is basically the same above ground as they are below ground.
Oh, for sure. But no, it wouldn't get that far. The only thing I was thinking is, I mean, at some time, but this would have had to have been quite a long time ago. They took down and stumped an oak, and you know, I don't know there was oak roots there. But also just seems like I don't know. Anyway, I'll go get a shovel and dig a giant fucking hole in my backyard tomorrow and figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Just leave it conveniently, you know, about 8 foot long, and somebody might fall in there.
There you go. Yes, that's what I gotta do. Yeah, I also I'm bad. I hope my neighbor doesn't watch this because he's got a
is he the one who's gonna fall in the hole?
No. He's got
I don't know, Bob. I don't know what happened to him. I saw him in my backyard one day. And I just poured that big 8x8 slab of cement. I figured I'd put a shed there.
No hole, but he's got a pine tree we wished he didn't have because it kind of blocks our view. So my wife always talks about wanting to get rid of this. Like she's like, I'm gonna go like cut the cambium layer in the middle of the night, and I'm like, dude, he will obviously know it's us. Like you can't do that. So instead, we just inoculated the ground with honey mushrooms. And we're, just going to be a little bit patient.
I was thinking.
They grew last year, so they didn't grow this year, but it was real dry this year. But I'm hoping I didn't lose that.
Kind of like poisoning your neighbor's tree.
Poisoning his tree. Now, man, I'll tell you what, we had those 𝐥𝐤𝐬𝐬s popping up everywhere around here, and I can tell you this. Speaking of like, associations with certain trees. Everywhere in my neighborhood in this like 2 or 3 day period, if I saw an eastern white pine, 60 to 70% chance there's going to be 𝐥𝐤𝐬𝐬 under it. Almost every. I mean, it felt like I just started driving around my rough where I live, and I would come up on it. It'd be everywhere. Sometimes they wouldn't be as big as other ones, but yep, strong association with the eastern white pine.
It's a heck of a lot easier to identify trees from a distance than it is to get up there and actually look at the mushrooms.
Yep. Yeah. Or even for me with the hens, and I'm not a great hen hunter, but a big old oak tree that looks like it might be towards its, last 20, 30 years is definitely the one you want to look everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Happy's real good at the morels. He knows the steepness of the embankment that makes it more likely to look for it and all that stuff.
The north or the south side of the hill. Oh yeah, all that type of stuff.
Noting all those little details help. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can't roam every inch of the woods.
Yeah.
The only mushrooms you're gonna find are the ones you basically walk up on. So you got to start making some decisions. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd be scouting things, man. I can only imagine now with GPS and stuff and those, the old Garmin things. You can put like waypoints in there. Man, I would be scouting. Yeah, I'd go out in September and I'd be scouting places for morels the next May. It's like I need to come back here next May. This is probably a good one.
Man, I feel like the way to do the morels is if you got roughly the right spots, you do it like you search for a dead body. You just get like 30 people. You just hold hands and you just comb through a stretch of woods until you find every single one.
Until you run into that patch of nettles or raspberries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, dude. When we've been going down to Hocking Hills, and my friend Sarah Culliton, she got hired by this place down near Hocking Hills to map the fungal biodiversity down there. So we all go with her and help her out. And I'm not going to name names, but one of the people who comes with, I mean, we all hate getting stung by nettle for sure, but there's one person and she knows who she is. She just hates it. And it is so entertaining to hear all of a sudden we'll just be walking around. All of a sudden, oh god damn it! Yeah, nettles suck. I will never eat that nettle. Everybody's like, oh, you can eat that.
Yeah,
Why do I
British
want to eat?
people apparently
No,
eat them a lot. It's like
no,
like kind of we like eat asparagus in the spring. They eat like nettles, I guess.
I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, I learned the genus name for that is Urticaria, and there's somebody was talking about Cystidia, the capitate, and the Lacithiform. I think you might have been
Yep.
talking the Lacithiform Cystidia. What was it? Hebeloma was it something? And yeah, I learned that I looked up what Lacithiform was, and it also had the different shapes, and one of them was urticoid. And then I realized
Oh yeah,
Urticaria is the
like
genus
urticaria.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, you make these connections after a while, and you're like, oh, that's kind of easy to remember.
Yep.
It's just like a little stinging thing on a nettle, whatever.
Yep.
Trichomes or whatever the hell those things are.
Yeah, there's a bunch of books on Latin for biologists, but it's very plant focused. Someday it'd be great if there was a book, a Latin, like brushing up on your Latin for mushrooms would be good. Because some of those people like Crystal Davidson and Alicia Milliken, they're linguistically talented, or I don't know what feature of their brain they have that I do not have, but they can quickly start picking up on the Latin, and they must just be better at language than me. I ain't a good talker.
Some people are those polyglots, man. They just pick up things. There's a dude on YouTube. He's talking about like Sanskrit and Thai and English and French, and he knows like all of these languages. And he's like talking about how it relates to Chinese and Japanese, kanji and all this. It's like, whoa. Yep. But there is one of those books. I can't remember the name of it, but it's something like Latin or something for mycology, or it's like terms. I'm sure somebody out there.
I found it, but I couldn't find it. Oh, yeah, if you got it, dude.
I have a copy of it. I ordered it for the library, and then I copied it. It might be on my bookshelf out front, but I wouldn't want to go look for it right now. But yeah, it's something like
cool.
Mycology, like Latin terminology or language for mycology or something like that.
Nice.
So I can't remember. It's got a weird title.
Yeah, man. So I can tell you this. I learn by repetition. Just keep encountering, exposing, reading, rereading. The more formally I try to memorize it, it doesn't work for me. For me, it's just one day I just remember it. And then once I got it, I don't lose it. But it takes me sometimes a while to get it. So
once it's burned in your brain, though, it's kind of like burned there. It's like imprinted in there.
Exactly. Yes. And for me, I have to so I guess this maybe is why language is not my forte, like learning other languages. I love systems and complexity. I love not understanding a system of thinking or a system of, whether it's chemistry or something like that. And then having to take in all the complexity of everything until it just clicks. I live for those moments of synthesis where like it all comes together and then I get it. That's the kind of stuff I like learning about. So like just memorizing the name of something is not as exciting for me. Like I love seeing the mushrooms and going, oh, I've seen that one 100 times, but it's less important for me to go, oh yeah, that's an 𝐦𝐸𝐺𝐸. I don't like or forget trying to spell that shit either. Like that's not as important for me.
Yeah, or the 𝐸𝐸𝐺𝐸. They have one Raphanica. They sell it here now. It's 𝐸𝐸𝐺𝐸 Raphanica. It's like this kind of little short black one, but they cut off the stipe that goes down. Probably 10 or 12 inches. They grow it in China and then ship it over here.
Speaking
I got a
of
culture
that,
of it, but it looks really cool and it's quite tasty.
And you can grow it?
Yeah, it's called 𝐸𝐸𝐺𝐸 Raphanica. It was a Colibia. So that's where I learned a lot of my Latin, or how I can remember some of these names is also because when like somebody found what I knew as Lepiota nacina the other day, and they sent me a picture, and I looked in Google Lepiota nacina, and now it's Leucoagaricus nacinoides, and I knew it as Lepiota 30 years ago. But now it's now it's like leucoagaricus, which makes sense because agaricus is like a dark spore, really, really dark
Sure.
spores. Annulus, but this is leuco means white, right? So it's like the white agaricus, and it makes perfect sense because Lepiota is the white spored thing that looks like agaricus.
Right.
Uh,
They
and it's
finally
just
got
like,
it right. They finally got it right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
man.
now.
That stuff is hilarious too, because you got the old curmudgeonly mycologists who just keep calling it the old name, and then you got the new mycologists that love being up on the new names of everything, and then you got the people in between that are just like sometimes they want to learn the new name and sometimes they don't. I'm kind of like, if you can remember any like Latin binomial, good for you.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
for you. Like that you didn't know there was a genus update. You know what? Who's the guy that's gonna give you a hard time for that? I don't know. Like a hardcore nerd who doesn't matter anyway.
It's funny though, the people that flex with that shit. It's like, really, I'm
It
really
is
proud of
funny.
you.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Is that what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Like
mean,
it's
now
some sort of.
if it's your job to know all this stuff, cool, sure, yeah. If knowing all this stuff is helping you ID mushrooms for ID groups or whatever like that, and you want to be up on it, great, sure. But just like the flex, definitely not that important. Now, before we get too far away from that 𝐤𝐤𝐬𝐷, I want to
Yeah,
show this.
I just
Check this
typed
out,
it in
guys.
there.
This guy, Justin Hammers. Sorry, the screen is doing this weird thing. Maybe I can change it like this. Oh, that didn't do anything. This guy, maybe it wasn't Justin Hammers. Oh, sorry, Eric Huntington on Facebook. He's got an Etsy. He sells in a bunch of isolated cultures from not active species, like stuff that most people don't usually ever grow. But he grows it, and so this is a rooting shank. Used to be Oldman Cell, I guess now it's Hymenopellis radica. But so this is a mushroom that I guess. Hold on, let me take this off. I'll show you guys. It is normally, it's got a very substantial, here we go. Sorry, guys, not meaning to take up time doing this.
I'm still trying to remember the name of the book. Glossary of Mycology Terms or something.
Here we go. All right, so let me share my screen again. Some people watching this will already know what I'm talking about. Some won't, so I better do this. All right, so you guys can see the screen now. Okay, so this, in my neck of the woods, this thing's everywhere. So let me just show you what it tends to look like when I find it. It tends to look roughly like this.
Azarula. That was Zarula radicata, right, for a while, and then it was Udomanciella, and it used to be Colibia.
See, you're older school than me. I only know the Udomanciella, but now it's something else. Now it's what was he calling it? Yeah,
Hymenopellis, something like that.
All right, so when I find them, they tend to look like, oh, here, is this it? Oh yeah, this is my observation. Okay, so this was one I found, and what's cool about it, so if you guys see, right, you only see maybe 3 inches of the stipe, and it's called rooting shank because look how much of that stipe, it is buried underground. So anyway, so this is this cool trait, and this kind of ties into cube cultivation, right? So this is a defining characteristic of this mushroom. There is this strong genetic propensity for the stipe to root. So check this shit out. Let me get out of all this stuff again and pull that thing up. So this is that culture. So he found one of these in the woods. He grew it out. Look at this rooting nature of this mushroom. Now, it didn't know what the hell to do on the top end of here. And, he's saying a rose cone mutation, something like that. But just look at that shank on that thing. like it shows you, that's like the extreme version of that, right? So what it made me think when I saw this, all these morphologies that we exploit, right? We can really exploit them if we're isolating for them. And slowly over time, if you're really careful about how you're selecting things, what you're cloning and then what you're going back to spore, cloning again. I mean, he didn't have to wait too long to get that, but yeah, you can amplify certain traits by doing that and not missing a beat like Dave Wombat, just not going to miss a beat. Some little weird change he's going to try to see if he captures it in the genetic. That's definitely for those of you who do not want to do diamond crosses or mon crosses, who like just growing the mushrooms and doing some isolation. There's a lot of amazing shit that can happen from just isolating mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, I just got I had a Mars, that is the albino version of that is Phobos, right?
Yep.
And I had this Mars culture for years now, and I finally got some spores off it. And now I'm just going to do a bunch of T0 multi-spore plates. So I'm going to find me a Phobos, like Phobos V2,
Yep.
because I know in that Mars print, which is a generic looking cube, it's just an ABC, but I know somewhere if I run enough multi-spore T0 spawn, I'll get an albino. If I make 20 T0 swab plates, I'll get an albino pin at some point. And I know that will happen. And I never would have thought before it's just a numbers game at some point, and being observant and, seeing that, like looking at your plates and you see that albino pin and getting that thing cloned. And yeah, I was really quite excited about that. All these crosses and whatever, but I've had this Mars culture for years and I don't know why it just would not fruit for me. And the first flush looked like crap, but I just ripped off all the pins and I'm like, let me get the second flush. And I got some really nice full size fruit. Last night I made a spore print and that's my new project. I get like new projects every day, but
that's one of your new
one of 20
one of. Yes.
Yeah, it'll probably be different tonight or you guys, it's morning for me. But yeah, in the next 12 hours it'll be something new. Actually, I've written down 2 or 3 things just as we're talking that are already.
What? You never do that, Ed. You never do that.
My wall, like, you see those stock brokers or whatever that got like the 8 monitors. My walls are like that, but it's like post-it notes and like
or the psychopath
paper.
Yes, or the person on verge of a psychotic break. Like, yes, also
where
has.
Does she work? Oh, she eat lunch at the Amazon cafe at 12:30.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Oh, I watch way too many of those psychopath documentaries. Not the serial killer ones. Those are kind of boring at this point, but it's like the actual, like, the incognito sociopaths that might be like your wife or husband or like brother or sister. And you're like,
you never know.
Wow, they're a psychopath too.
Yep. What do they, I think I looked this up one time. It is shocking how the frequency of psychopaths.
Oh yeah.
So sociopath frequency.
When they do those tests and it's like, oh, or you get a really high score and you're like, oh, like I'm like 75% there.
3% of the population is sociopathic. Let's see what psychopathic.
So that's like 1 out of 3 people, Oh no, 1 out of 30.
One out of 100, right? Oh yeah, 1 out of 30.
3%. Yeah,
3 out of 100.
Which is. Yeah, so if you had an average size classroom, like at least one of those people is a psychopath.
All right.
A sociopath.
1.2% of U.S. adult men and 0.3 to 0.7% of U.S. adult women are considered to have clinically significant levels of psychopathic traits. There you go, guys. They're out there. And if you're lucky, you'll find one.
You might be laying in bed right next to one right now.
And you never know. Yes.
Does that drink she just got for you taste funny?
This water is a little weird. Thanks for the water, honey. Yeah.
I can taste sweet today. Oh, I changed the filter.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes. Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me. They said their one of their loved ones was bipolar schizophrenic. didn't want to be in their meds anymore, and so they were growing magic mushrooms because that's what they wanted to do instead. And I very quickly said, there are, like, guys, these mushrooms are amazing. I love them. They are not a treatment modality for bipolar schizophrenia.
Yeah.
They are not.
Mm.
They're just
Yeah, I've
not.
had a couple guys recently that I've met, these guys that come over here. They're kind of lost in life, 25 to 30-ish, and they're like, I'm like, man, maybe can you do a little bit more research about this before you just start self-medicating? You know,
Yeah.
these can be like quite powerful medicines. So like, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Especially if you're
Now-
on a bunch of other meds and stuff like that already. And
Now, I have talked to some people who admitted that they were schizophrenic, and I talked to them. I think there were two guys I can think of specifically. There might have been one other that I briefly talked to, but these two guys I talked to, they both basically said, like, it doesn't obviously cure it, but it calms it. And when they said that, and they both, like, I didn't lead they both told pretty much the same story. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like what happens for, people with ADHD, where you get a stimulant and it actually calms you down for some weird reason.
yeah.
So who knows? And maybe someday it will play a role in that. But my gut instinct right now is it isn't Robitussin. Like, do you know that Chris Rock joke where he's like, my daddy, we didn't go to the doctors. We just had Robitussin. So it'd be like, Daddy, I skinned my knee. Put some tussin on it, boy. Put some tussin on that. Right? Like, it doesn't solve every problem there is. It's a medicine, and it has an effect, and it can encourage some integration, some healing, all that good stuff. But there's more to it than just popping a pill.
Yeah.
But all we just want a Manjaro. Right? We don't want to go on a diet and go work out. We want Manjaro. We just want to just give me a shot, give me a pill, make it easy.
I didn't realize how big those were. These peptide medicines. I didn't realize how big those were getting. Is that what Manjaro is? They got a different name.
It's getting real big. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were in Australia. They're selling them like street drugs. It's like you want your fentanyl or your Olympic or some other. There's like a different name, Zope or something.
Oh, they're
selling them like on the dark web or whatever. The same place you like order fentanyl from China. You get your your peptide.
And they run a sale on Fridays. You can get a kidney, Manjaro, and like, a fentanyl to kill a town for like, 10 grand. Cheap, good deal. Yep.
It'll all come the next day. So is Manjaro the name of
it works. It works. Yep. I know people close to me who use it, and it works. And hey.
Oh, you hear 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐳𝐫𝐞, 𝐦𝐤𝐳𝐫𝐞.
I do not know what you just said, Ed, but I don't know what's in it. I just know it works.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, man. So we were gonna talk. So you're doing a class right now on is it just on breeding, or is it on more stuff?
Yeah, just breeding. We went 4 hours the other day, and I felt like we were just kind of scratching the surface because, people started asking questions, and it just kind of morphed into generic talk. We were talking about senescence, and we were talking about verification, cross verifications, actually. Yep. We talked about that for a good 30 minutes or 45 minutes because one of the participants really wanted to talk about that. And the other people didn't seem to mind. So we talked about mons and grab and drags, and then we just quickly kind of diverged into another topic. But the verification thing was fascinating.
Well, let's talk about that, because it's been one of my pet projects for a while, for a bunch of reasons that we don't have to get into, that has come up in past episodes. But we got a lot of people watching now who haven't watched all the past episodes. So let's just clarify so everybody understands. If you are isolating a single spore germination on a plate, and you can confirm it by microscopy to guarantee that there are no clamp connections, which would be a sign of a dikaryotic mycelial culture. if you can do that and you have 2 true monokaryotic plates and you put them on another plate, or if you do it like Ed does, he just throws it in a bag of grain, patty rice. You don't have to do a bunch of DNA testing. You don't have to send it to a certain person to be confirmed, because you got 2 monos, and if you grow fruit, then you know why you grew fruit. But there are a lot of people who are doing double swabs and other quick and dirty methods, which definitely in some cases or many cases or occasionally, I don't know what term you want to use, but it does work sometimes. But the issue is, how do you know when it is working and when it is not working? How do you know if what you didn't force just one of the original spores from just one fruit to just do something different? You don't, unless you come up with a paternity test of some sorts. And this has been a hot button topic in the community. A lot of people have talked about it. Some people have said, we can do that. We can figure that out. We have definitely, Ed and I both agree that it would be cool to figure that out, but there should be some transparency about how it's done. And the trick is, how do you do it? Because you can't use ITS. ITS is a barcode. It is a region of DNA that can be used to ID to species in many instances. And this is, at-home DNA barcoding. This is all the rage. You go to a mushroom festival and somebody's going to be doing a workshop on DNA barcoding, which is cool. It's cool and useful. But it cannot be used to test for paternity. Other things have to happen. So Ed and I were like, we should talk about this. Originally, you were talking about SSR regions, little microsatellite regions.
Yeah.
And then we got to talking about another method. So do you have that? Was it a presentation or slideshow or something?
Yeah. It's actually a YouTube video.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got it. Let me see.
Yeah, I think I sent you the link.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's
let me
probably
share it.
easier if you can control it. Yeah, that was, by the way, that was an excellent synopsis of the problem, and that is almost verbatim like what I said in slightly different terminology to the workshop participants.
Yeah, you
Like,
gotta.
ITS can't be used to verify crosses. It's for species identification or maybe even higher level.
And
genus
without
level
getting too far in the weeds, basically, all these the genes, right? All the genomic data of a species. There are certain regions that are not physically doing anything. They're not transcribing proteins. They're just kind of there to maybe let the ribosomes know to get out of the way or do something else without getting trying to keep this real layman's terms. And they're called more conserved regions. And so some regions are so conserved, they're basically the same across many, at the family order level. They're almost identical. Other things are less so. And so the ITS region has been identified by the grand world of all high-level mycologists as kind of the sweet spot for where there's enough differentiation that region is conserved but not so conserved that it can be used in most cases to ID something to a species. But the level of allelic variation and within paternity, right? You can't really say the mom and the dad because they're not penises and vaginas in mushrooms, but basically the 2 parent fruits, right? It doesn't tease out that information. So there's other ways that has to happen. So anyway, there isn't a way to do it. And we're going to let Ed talk about it. We're going to watch this video. So do you want to start watching it? And then if you want me to stop it at certain points, I'll do that. So you just let me know.
I think you can stop it. I wanted to say one thing. So what we're doing is basically like what forensic, like criminal, like what the police do with things like of
Yeah.
DNA evidence. We're essentially doing paternity testing, or
Yeah.
like if you had blood or some other DNA evidence, saliva or
Yep.
wherever they get it. That's what we're doing, because you can't say like Homo sapiens, like, oh yeah, it was a Homo sapiens that like create or did this crime. So you've got
Right.
to, it goes down to almost like the individual level.
Right.
And so depending on how many, so we're going to talk about maybe 2 restriction enzymes we'll get to, but you could use more restriction enzymes. So you make the resolution of how do you want an actual individual, like you could identify, say you've got several GTs, you can actually differentiate between even individual like isolates maybe and things like that.
So,
So
and if
it's
I'm not mistaken, and we'll get into it here in a second, but if I'm not mistaken, if you get the restriction enzymes right, you might even be able to get into, like, I don't know if the word clade would be right, but you could ID to, like, well, this is a Melmac variation, this is an ape
yes.
variation, and so
Yep.
you could not only, because again, for the
Mm.
paternity tests, you have to provide tissue sample, DNA, amplified DNA from the 2 parent fruits, and then the putative cross that you've made. And in some cases, people cannot do that. So what you could do, though, is down the road, you could have different restrictive enzymes that might suggest like a high probability of the cross being successful, even if you didn't have, for some reason, you didn't have the
Yes,
parent fruit anymore. So,
exactly. Yep.
so
You
we're
get a
gonna watch.
reference library. Yeah, you get a reference library of, you got 20 different B pluses, and hopefully they all clade and group together. And yeah, that way you wouldn't even maybe need one of the parents.
Yeah, and
So,
so what this all goes to at the end of the day is the same type of thing that stealthy spores. He literally did exhaustive research on all these cultigens, right? So all these different cards have a pretty nice little history about them. And that's like the anecdotal story about it. But what Ed's talking about is that we could start creating, and if anybody's seen some of the phylogenetic trees that Alistair McTaggart has made, both for just speciation within New Zealand and Australia for active mushrooms, psilocybin containing mushrooms, but also for, I think he did just a bunch of cultigens and basically kind of showed where a lot of them came from and where they grouped and all that stuff. Um, that's kind of what we're getting at, that we could have a
mm,
higher fidelity phylogenetic tree if we all, if the community as a whole got into this. So I think at the core, that's why there's been an interest around that. It's really not just about policing, like, how dare you sell a thing that's not a cross. I know guys
mm,
selling shit that ain't crosses. I know people renaming shit every day, and all it is a fucking isolation. But like, you can't control the world.
mm.
But if we had a transparent way of doing this, if we taught people how to do this, so like, hey, if you got a few grand and you want to figure this out and do it yourself, cool, we can show you how to do it. If you don't, there are people who will do it for you. That's what we're hoping for. So let's watch. We're gonna watch. I know we're not quite 2 hours in, but we're gonna watch a little video. It's some super smart guy from India with a real thick accent, so I
Yeah,
apologize in advance.
you might want to mute it, and maybe you can stop it where you think would be a good place. There's about 7, or like, I think you sent me the little outline, and maybe just stop it. Maybe you don't need to play
Oh
the
yeah.
audio. His accent's pretty thick.
It is pretty thick.
Um,
So, well, yeah, we'll see. Well, and you guys in the comments, if it's just feeling like, bro, what is this guy saying? To which I'm just saying, try taking Calc 2 or linear algebra or differential equations from a guy from India with a super thick accent. It's not fun. But here we go. And let me share the screen.
Yeah, there's definitely some places where I can explain. And I think you also, we're pretty well versed in this already. It's
I'm well
pretty
versed
straightforward.
conceptually. You are probably more well versed on, like, where the rubber meets the road. But yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I've
All
actually
right.
done this kind of stuff.
And so for everybody, we're getting a little deep science here. So I know some people got
A little
excited
bit.
about that. Some people, if this is not your thing and you're not that interested, go to bed. I'm not mad. But
You're going to learn something very valuable in the
yes.
next 10 minutes. Very, very valuable.
All right, here we go. All right, let me see how this is looking on the screen.
Looks good.
All right, let me see if I can make it bigger.
Yeah.
What does it look like if I do full screen?
That looks good.
That's even better. All right,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Here we go.
AFLP means amplified fragment length polymorphism. In the first step of AFLP, the genomic DNA is extracted from the organism. In the next step, two different restriction enzymes are used.
Okay, maybe can I stop it there? So
Perfect.
so what they're doing basically is that genomic DNA. So in this case, you would need something like a dried mushroom or even a living culture, but you could use a dried mushroom. This is where you get the mortar and pestle and your liquid nitrogen, and basically you grind your mushroom into a powder. Or we would use fresh cultures, and we would take a little like miniature scalpel or spatula and scrape up mycelium from a plate, and you put it in a little mortar and pestle, the mortar, I guess, and you put it in with a little bit of liquid nitrogen just to freeze it, and then you just grind it. So you could powder the mushroom in a coffee grinder. Yeah, and then the next thing so you've got this, it's fairly easy
Organism.
to extract
In the next
genomic
step,
DNA.
two different restriction enzymes are usually used to digest the DNA.
All right, so let me ask you this. So you're not going to amplify the DNA. First, you need the restriction enzymes. Okay.
Right. So this is where, you kind of need to get a purified DNA sample because you want to make sure that there's not too much junk floating around in there. But they've got very little, they've got these trizol, I think it's called, these little buffers that you just buy, and then you do a few centrifugations and things like that. It's pretty straightforward. But
All
yeah,
right.
you don't. So we're not to the amplification yet. So this is where something like other techniques, you often do like PCR first, like with an ITS type of thing. You would do your amplification first, and then later on you look at the sequence and you do stuff later. This is kind of like the other way around, like you're cutting the DNA first. So
these enzymes, are they cutting it consistently, like at the same place?
Yes.
Is that the idea? So based on the enzyme, it tends to grab the DNA in the same place.
Exactly. They call them recognition sites. So the thing they're representing there is the blue and yellow. They're going to create what are called sticky ends. And so when you look at one of these enzymes, there's hundreds of them now, and they come from bacteria. And what their job in bacteria was basically to prevent from bacteria from getting infected with viruses and whatnot. So bacteria develop these scissors, these enzymes, they're called restriction enzymes. And that's where the name comes from, to restrict the DNA or incoming like foreign pathogens or viruses or whatever. So it just barely chops it up. It's kind of like, so that it's like a defense mechanism. And so they figured out in the 1960s how to use these to look at smaller pieces of DNA. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take that whole 46 megabases and chop it up into like thousands and thousands of pieces.
Okay.
So
and they're saying there are two. Is that just because there are two common ones used, or is there a specific goal with each one?
There's dozens of common ones now. So EcoR1. So EcoR1 stands for E. coli restriction 1. So it was the first restriction enzyme that they got from E. coli, the bacterium.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do have, some of them have names. You'll see like MSE. That's the name of the genus and species from which that enzyme came from, the name of the bacteria. So you can get these things on the internet. You just order them like you order a pizza. You just go onto a website and you say, oh, I want EcoR1, I want ASA2, and you can go through and you can use different restriction enzymes. And because they have different what they call recognition sites, you can get either short pieces or long pieces, and some will recognize like a 4 base pair like sequence, or some will be like 6, so they call them 4 cutters or 6 cutters or 8 cutters. So if you've got something that recognizes, say, an 8 nucleotide sequence, that means you're going to get less fragments. Or if you have something that like an EcoR1, I think it's got a 4 base pair recognition site, you're going to get a lot of fragments. So what they're probably trying to do with that choice of enzyme, those two restriction enzymes, they're trying to basically get enough cuts to where you can use it diagnostically, but not so many that it's going to be just like a big smear of,
meaning when you do the gel, because we're not this far yet, but when you do the gels, you want different lengths.
Yeah.
So okay. We'll get to that part.
Enough, but not too many to where it's
Right.
just the
To where there's no
smear.
you can't differentiate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going on this. This
One
is only a
4
couple
base
minutes.
cutter and the other one is 6 base cutter.
Oh,
Now
there's
two
your
different adapters are ligated on each digested DNA fragment. These adapters make it possible to copy and amplify the fragments in next steps. If you don't know what exactly is an adapter, it is a short double-stranded DNA molecule that has sticky ends. Each adapter is complementary to a cut-end of fragmented DNA. In the next step, these DNA fragments are amplified in PCR. In amplification, two distinct primers are added to each DNA fragment. These primers are specific and complementary to adapters. The amplification produces oodles of new DNA fragments, and these amplified fragments are easily separated in polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. The DNA fragments are placed
So there's
in a
one
gel.
slight error
Then
here. They've got it labeled ATCG at the
Yeah.
top. Ignore that. That's
Yeah,
they don't need
okay.
that label there. Somebody mislabeled the diagram.
But to just go back, just to walk this through real simple. So basically, let me go back. So the restrictive enzymes are cutting these things up. And then these, you called them sticky ends. What did he call them? He called them
Yes, I think
like
it's-
the ligating adapters. They're tags that go on the end of these pieces that then, right, they stick to them, they connect to them, that then once you got your adapters on, let me get to it here. So now you have, you polish the ends of these up so that the primers can come in and connect to them, and then
PCR.
then now you're doing your actual PCR. So this is where you're putting some tack primer, whatever, and you're doing your thermocycles, and now you're amplifying all this stuff. And so this is where now it's much like ITS barcoding.
Yeah.
Where now you're gonna, once you've amplified it, you're gonna run a sample of that through these gels. Yeah, I don't know why they did
Exactly.
this ATC.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, they recycled old Sanger sequencing.
Then an electric field is applied. The fragments get separated based on their size. AFLP normally produces 30 to 100 DNA bands on the @𝐥𝐤𝐬𝐷. By comparing the
so
band
that would be
patterns
where
of
you would pick different, like that 30 to 100. Like you don't want 1,000 pieces, so it's got to be somewhat reasonable so you can see the different. They're kind of like fingerprints.
Yeah, so this is where, and I think you had a long time ago. Well, okay, maybe this is going to explain it.
It is precious information, like revealing the similarities and diversity between different organisms. AFLP is a PCR-based technique. It was first developed by Wass and 𝐤𝐳𝐫𝐞 in the year 1993. It is a powerful technique to detect polymorphism in the genome. It enables the selective amplification of restricted DNA fragments from a complex mixture. AFLP gives us more information, faster and highly accurate than RFLP and RAPD. AFLP results are highly reproducible compared to other techniques. Prior genomic information is not necessary in AFLP.
So
that pretty much sums it up. Yeah. If the accent was a little better, it would be perfect. And that mislabeling, but they just recycled a Sanger sequencing diagram, I think.
Yeah. So what's cool about that? So this is basically using this idea that beyond the species level. So basically, you have different polymorphisms than I do, or like you have different. Right, I have different polymorphisms than my wife does. And so if we did this for us, and then we did it for our kids, we should see conglomerations of that banding in the gel electrophoresis that will line up. So basically every band that shows up from my kid is going to either line up with my wife or me, assuming that the kid came from us. So
Yeah,
that same
exactly.
logic would be used for the mushrooms. It's simple. That's
Yeah,
not even
it's
terribly complicated.
remarkably simple. It's the same thing they do now with the ancestry. So you're essentially using
Yeah.
those amplified fragments as what we call markers.
Yep.
So the markers that make you Irish or North African or whatever, Native
Yep.
American, like
That's how they get that.
Yeah, somebody has picked one of those markers and be like, oh, this is the marker for Cherokee and this is the marker for Apache. And that's exactly what it is. It's like a different way of getting, like if you're looking at fingerprints, it's like, oh, that high arch, or that's some
Yep.
distinctive characteristic. Except for in this case, they're amplified pieces of DNA.
Yeah.
And so rapids and all those other things, they're essentially the same thing. They're based on PCR and restriction enzymes, which are based on DNA sequences because the restriction enzymes cut at particular DNA sequences. So it's a way to take that 46 million bases and chop it up into reasonably sized fragments. And there's another way that the rapids where you do the PCR first and then you chop up the fragment. So you get your amplicon and then you chop that up. But so it's like the opposite. You just do the same thing but in different order. But same basic idea. It's a diagnostic thing.
Sorry, I wanted to pull you. This is from an old post you had, but I think it will make the point very clearly. All right.
Yeah.
So here, guys, you can see, so you have the mother's column. So just imagine this is your tidal wave, right? And so here you have your polymorphic bands that have been isolated in, this would be on a gel for gel electrophoresis, something that you can buy for a few $100 online. And then this is the putative cross, the cross that everybody's convinced isn't or is a cross. And then you got father 1 and father 2. In this case, you wouldn't have to have father 1 or father 2. You would just have the other fruit that you used in the cross. But in this case, it's being used as a paternity test. But you can see it can conclusively show, well, all the bands are either coming from the mother or father 1, except for it looks like one instance. So because I'm sorry, from father 2, yeah. There's only one instance where father 1 and father 2 have the same polymorphism. So you can kind of say, well, man, most of these bands are lining up with father 2 and the mother. So it looks like a successful cross is kind of the idea.
You are the father.
That'll be our new Jerry Springer show, Ed.
Yes, exactly.
Well, every week somebody just sends something in. We run the gels. We're grinding it up, and we go. That's it. It's a boy.
I could see that happening, man. We need to get a big stage so people can do like jumping jacks and cartwheels and stuff like that.
Yep, and run around. If it's not a cross, then they can go, what the fuck, and go crazy and run around and
run backstage and cry.
Yep. And when we get really finally good at it, we know a few things. That guy who says, I didn't steal that from so and so, and then we can prove that they did. Then
give them lie detector tests.
The show gets real fun.
Yes. The reality show and the talk show, man. Don't give these ideas away. Somebody out there in Hollywood's listening.
There you go. Somebody, I got another show idea instead of just doing another talk show like I'm doing. There you go, guys. You can do some new exciting content. But yeah, so basically the only learning curve is really you got to play around a little bit with the restrictor enzymes. So what you would do, probably the best way to do it is you'd start with a confirmed, a cross that you just have a high confidence on. And you would use that then to test out the restrictor enzymes and see if there's enough what is the fancy word? Resolution.
Yes. That's the right word.
Right.
Yes.
You'd want it to be enough, but not too much. And once you figure out how many restrictor enzymes that takes or which ones you need, you're rocking and rolling. This is all protocoled out already. It's not even hard.
Oh yeah. These are like standard laboratory techniques that are, literally you could teach somebody how to do the laboratory stuff in like an afternoon. they would become pretty proficient, assuming they have basic,
Yeah.
laboratory skills and know how to operate a pipette.
All you got to
And
be
it's
able to do, guys, is go like this. If you can do that, I can't do it. I'm out. Somebody else has got to do it for me.
what the clamshell? Can you do that?
Right? You just got to do a couple things. You got to grab your foot and jump through. I'm good at chopsticks, so I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I'm sure you have to be good.
Well, the great thing about this is it's cheap. Once you buy the enzyme, so the enzymes, one of those EcoR1, they're probably about $300 or $400, but you can use that same enzyme for literally probably the rest of your life. You get, a little tube of it. It's like 50 microliters, but you're using like a half a microliter at a time or something, like tiny, tiny volumes. These are all, these things are all done in like 20 microliter volumes.
Yeah.
So
cool, man. So who'd have thought amplified fragment length polymorphisms is all you're looking for? And I'm doing that now. I'm training. I just went through a validator trading, helping out Hart Singer with fundus. Doing they're just pumping all this genomic data through their nanopore sequencers. They got all these ITS sequences that are being pumped out through the Oxford nanopore. And they need people to validate the sequences. So basically you take the FASTQ file, you make sure the read's looking good. You compare it to what's automatically pumped out by Oxford Nanopore. And then the next step is you try to see if there's enough genomic data out there to maybe give a preliminary ID to species. So I've been learning all that stuff. And one of the things we had to figure out how to do was identify polymorphisms. So it's very interesting that those same polymorphisms, those unique, optional changes in the genome in those spots, in other spots could be used for a completely different thing, like testing paternity.
Yes, and you just brought up, so made me think about something. You can actually use the genomic data that's already there, and you can make an artificial. You can see what size fragments you would have. So let's say you've got a penis envy genome that a lot of things are sequenced already. You can actually take those known genomic sequences and chop them up like I don't know, in the computer. I don't know how you
we wouldn't you could play games already, right?
You can see like, oh well, I'm gonna have an 800 base pair fragment from my PE, and then you can see those different. I never even thought about that because there's so much of that data that's out there now, and it's all publicly available. You could make like a sort of in computero restriction map of some of these things and you would never even have to have the DNA of that mushroom. You just have the sequence.
Yep. So you're saying we can do that to figure out what restrictor enzymes to use.
Yes.
And then,
Yep. There's programs that'll do that for you. That there's like these restriction programs. I remember we were using them 20 years ago. You put in like an E. coli genome, and then you say, well, I want to use EcoR1 and RFA2 or whatever, and it'll tell you what size. Yep. Yes, exactly.
Oh, done.
And you never even have to. This is like remarkably easy. We were talking about this like last year, and I can't. We should have maybe continued.
Well, we never. A lot of those papers were paywalled. And we never actually looked at them. And I remember the last thing you told me was basically like that it all came down to the primers. If we could find the right primers, and you were like, back in the day, it would have taken 6 months. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, fuck it. I'm not going to do any of that. But now
I totally forgot that the things they ligate on the end, those are like well known. So what you're doing is you're making these sticky ends so that when that adapter will base pair. And so you already know the restriction cut.
Right.
And so you make the adapter, and then you have those adapters that already have a sequence that's for the RNA primer later so that you can do your PCR.
Right.
So all you really got to do is pick your restriction enzymes. And we used to, one of the girls who worked in my lab back in school, she was doing this. And again, it was one of those things I didn't think of its applicability at the time.
I know.
But she was using it for plants. She was using this plant genus called Eupatorium. And she was just going through this list of enzymes, and she kept testing, all these enzymes to see which one gave her enough resolution, like enough signal, but not too much noise.
Right.
and it was, you just had to pick. It took her a couple months, but she eventually got these 3 or 4 enzymes where she could differentiate down to like population level, which is what we're doing.
Wow. Yeah.
So essentially, like a GT is like a population level kind of
Yep.
like, and B plus is like another population. So she was doing it like you were talking about down in Mexico and stuff. You know, how far away do you need to get these 2 collections to actually say they're different?
Yes. Oh, see, now we're even getting to even more
Yeah,
usefulness of like going, okay,
exactly, man.
so right, Happy and I were in dichotomous keys. We're wandering around a cow pasture on one field and we find some pans, and then we go 5 miles down the road. Is that a totally different genetic?
Mhm.
We don't know. You don't. How do you know? Well, you grow them both out and you look at them and you use macromorphological features to figure it out. Or you're saying if you had the right restrictor enzymes, you could actually more restriction enzymes.
Yeah.
You could more scientifically figure out like it's essentially the same. Or no, it's actually it's not part of that population.
Yeah.
That's cool shit.
Yeah, this is with the right combination of enzymes, you could basically go anywhere from like individual level to population to species even. You could, once you would get to like genus level, it would be getting a bit messy probably,
Just
because
by
you wouldn't
farting
know.
around with the restriction
Yep.
enzymes.
Yeah, and you go those ones that have the 4 base pair recognition site, or the 8 or the 6. I think they might even have 10 base pair recognition sites. So if you do like a 4, like that EcoR1, it's a 4 base pair recognition site. If that gives you too many fragments and the gel is just like a blur,
Right.
you go to like a 6 or an 8 or a 10, and then you just basically, the longer that recognition site, the less fragments you're going to get, because there'll be less places where it cuts in the genome.
And
even
instead
a
of having to buy 10 bottles at $300 a piece, we're just going to use available genomic data on the internet and figure it out using a computer and save money.
Yes, for one of those computer people, I don't want to say nerds, but those computer nerds out there, this is literally what you could go on GenBank right now, download a bunch of cube sequences and find it's probably, I don't know what the program would be called. It'll be like restriction map something, and it'll tell you exactly where those things are going to cut, how many fragments you'll get, et cetera, et cetera. Restriction mapper.
Love it.
Probably it.
Love
I'm sure there's
it.
an app for it already. Yeah, Restriction Mapper version 3. Yep.
Look at that. And the free one is available to download right now, guys.
Yes, exactly. There we go. Also, here we go. Map sites for restriction enzymes and DNA sequences. Also does virtual digestion.
That's what you want, right?
There you go.
You want virtual digestion.
That's what.
It'll probably draw me a pretty picture of what the gel will look like too.
It probably will.
Yeah.
I haven't messed around this. I'll put it in the chat. This is for one of those for one of those computer guys out there who like spending long nights looking at ACGs and Ts. This is the kind of project you can do. You can become very well known very quickly if somebody's got the time and a little bit of effort to put into this.
Oh, we're doing it. We're getting it figured out.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Just like 2.5 hours ago, I woke up not thinking about. I didn't know it was going to be such an exciting day. I'm really quite excited about this. I might even start doing it myself.
Let's do it, man. Let's get it done.
The thing, you can share data too.
Yes.
Here's the great thing is, once you get this data, like say you've got 20 B pluses and you get those restriction fragment sizes, you can share that quite readily if you want to.
Yeah.
Or if not, or like you said, I didn't even think about it, but once you get sort of a library or like a catalog of all your Louis Vuittons, and you get sort of a consensus for those fragment sizes, you don't even need the parents anymore.
At a certain point, you can use it to also assess, to get real serious about this, right? Like a lot of people go, well, when can you call an isolation an isolation?
Yes.
You could actually test for, have I isolated something enough to now not call it Blue Vuitton, because we now have
Yes.
consensus around what the gel looks like for Blue Vuitton. There's no limit to this. And
There
for
really is
sure,
none.
you share the restriction enzymes because one, you can't do all the work. I can't do all the work, right? We need easily 10 to 30 people doing all this. And in 5 years, we will be doing PhD level work on the stuff that the PhDs can never touch because they can't do scientific papers on all our
Cubes.
cube isolations.
Yes.
They just can't.
Oh, I think
Pfizer's never going to
less
do
than
it.
5 years.
I mean,
If a
however
couple,
many. Yeah, I'm assuming
if a
people are
couple
lazy and
smart
it takes a
people,
while.
yeah, that might be true. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that. It says here there's 3,600 restriction endonucleases, which are restriction enzymes. There's 3,600. 3,600.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we definitely need to run what was that called? Restriction map or .com?
Yeah,
Or
I pasted
.org?
it in the
Yes, we
private.
definitely need that.
That was just the
Yes.
first one that popped up. Yeah, I'm sure
Cool.
some of them probably are very similar, but they're readily available. They're the kind of things you could order just online. They're
That's
not
great.
like chemical precursors or anything.
Right.
They're just generic things that anybody could order.
That's great. And that serves another purpose because we had talked about a project that I think actually Miraculous is doing a kind of a version of that now, where we were talking about doing like a cup centered around different cultigens so that you could come up with like a mean alkaloid profile and all that. But now you could do that if you actually could use this process to go, this is we know this is a clade or not a clade, I don't know, a population within a population of, so would you call a Blue Vuitton then? Would a cultigen be considered a population within the species?
I think you could call it probably a population or a clade. I think they both would be.
Okay.
I'm not sure what terminology they use. They might have a different term.
But
like
yeah, so whatever that
cluster.
was, if you could figure that out, then instead of needing 100 or 200 HPLCs on something in order to have quality data on it, you'd do that work in a different way. And then you could go, okay, so this is within this. And so you could test a few, and I feel like your resolution would be higher without having to have as large of a data set, basically.
Right. There's two things that also, like, you don't need to send this off somewhere to sequence. This is all data you could generate in your own home.
Yep.
You wouldn't need to wait for a service or whoever's nanopore system to get, up and running, or they've got a backlog on that kind of stuff. So you do all this work and you get really excited. You could generate this literally like within 12 hours. You could have this data sitting in front of you and analyzed. The other thing is to note is this is a whole genome-wide kind of thing. So instead of looking at where DNA sequence gets a little bit messy, and we've seen this many, many times, right? When you start bickering over a certain like couple base pairs and whether that's enough to make it a different thing. But say you've got things that you think are the same and they have exactly the same map for, 6 or 7 different enzymes. And that's probably enough to say that these are probably the same thing. Like you were saying, if somebody's got a supposed new isolate, if it's not different, if you've cut it with 10 or 12 enzymes and it's got exactly the same pattern, that's probably enough to say, well, maybe that's just something you renamed.
Right.
Like it's not different enough for you to maybe call it something different. And that's much more powerful because it doesn't, it's basically, it seems like you're getting less discrete data, but in fact, because you're looking at the whole genome, you're looking at things. It could be exons or introns. It could be protein coding regions. It could be random stuff. So you're getting a very, very good sampling of the whole genome.
And so that's good.
Without having to look at 46 million base pairs, which is impractical.
Yeah.
You're looking
for
at
now until AI can do it. But yes, totally impractical. Yeah. The other thing that it would be good for is some of these, some of these hot mess genera, like, Hebeloma is a little bit of a hot mess. And then you have some of these regional things where it's like, okay, so in Colorado, this thing that seems to match pretty well, but maybe has a couple base pair differentiation. Is it something new? Is it not something new? This is just like another filter that could be used taxonomically to lump or split, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
cool, man. And like you're saying, again, to follow, like you're the last person I thought this would come from, be in the hands of citizen scientists, if they're doing it right,
Oh, yeah.
can do all this shit. And
For
then
sure.
all the mycologists in academia in their ivory towers who are overworked and don't want to go in the field anyway, they can just collect all that useful information. And yeah, that's cool shit, man.
Yeah, like I think you already have all the equipment to do this.
I do.
Too. You
Yeah,
just
all I need are
pipettes.
I just need the chemicals. Yeah, I just need the
just
enzymes
the
and the.
enzymes.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It's a standard DNA extraction. It's
Yep.
yeah, like I think you probably got it all back there on the shelf behind you.
It's right.
Yeah.
Right down there, guys. I just gotta actually pull it out and do something with it. Yes. Yeah, man,
So
we'll
you're
do
gonna
it. We'll figure it out. We'll share the restriction enzymes. We'll get people. We'll do workshops. We'll get people going. There's in my server. There's like the people that want to grow mushrooms. There are the people that like to forage. There are the people that I don't even know if they grow mushrooms, but they sure want to talk about science all day. And then there are the people who like doing some lab shit. And so, yeah, those people would be perfect for this. It'd be very cool.
Yeah, and some computer guys out there, girls who like to look at the like algorithms.
Right. We need
and
the
stuff
we
like
need the
that.
data people. Yeah.
Mm.
I got a couple ideas for that already. So
Oh,
what else?
yeah.
So we did. That's good. That's even more exciting than I thought it was going to be, to tell you the truth. That's cool.
Yeah, talking about it, it's there's a lot of cool stuff that could
Yeah, what
be
it
a
ends
big
up
project. That
yeah, it
really
ends up
is
being
like
a
citizen science. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't need to depend. The thing about DNA sequences is like you have to depend. Nobody's got a DNA sequencer.
right.
Like they cost millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, or even with the nanoports, you're saying, oh, it costs $3 to run a sample, but you've got to buy that $900 thing or whatever first. And so, yeah, if you're doing 10,000 samples, yeah, it's really, really efficient and it's very, very economical.
Yeah.
But if you're only doing like say 5 or 6 samples, it's you're gonna have to wait a
Oh, you
month or
can't.
two.
Yeah. No. All
Yeah.
that's why like Sanger still is kind of like any PhD candidate looking at something that only needs to run 30 or 40 things is definitely going to use Sanger. That they're just probably going to. But yeah, if you can get big batches, I mean, it's hard to beat nanopore, because I mean, hearing these guys talk, even if what they call a failed run, of 1,000 samples, they're still getting 400 reads off a fungal that cost a few $100. It's still, I mean, even a failed run is pretty cost effective. When they get up to 70, 80, 90% success, I mean, it's pennies on the dollar. It's pretty great. And some of these are coming back. The reads and consensus on some of these are like hundreds of, so basically these nanopores, after they do the amplification, it just spits through it. It's this little molecule, I forget what it's called, but it just sucks these things through it. So they'll read and everything's been amplified. So depending upon the run, a good run, everything's easily got 60 to 180 reads, and that they can then be used to build a consensus on. So you can go through, you can pull out chimeras, you can get rid of stuff, and it's still, resolution is still pretty great. The problem is some things just have to be rerun. So you might have sent a sample that for whatever reason didn't amplify well. And so that's where they got really into, they have a thing where they can kind of dial in the concentration of the amplification, so there's sort of like the right amount of it. This is some stuff this guy 𝐥𝐤𝐬 was getting everybody up on using, I forget the name of it, but it basically measures the density of the amplified DNA. And again, when the flongals work well, it's a pretty brilliant setup. Same with the fact that there's like unlimited reads. it can read an insane amount of data if the run goes well. The problem that they're having now is Oxford Nanopore sends them these. They got to buy them 10 at a time. They can't buy one fungal at $300. They got to buy 10 of them. So, and then there's a shelf life on them. There's a ticking clock the minute they get them. So they got to be well coordinated. And then, like one of them was saying, they were just about to do a run. And when they set it up, it goes through a QC test and it fails the QC test. And so if you did that QC test out of your warranty period, then you don't get your money. It's a whole, it's astonishingly cheap, a few grand for the nanopore sequencer, a few grand for the primers compared to what a Sanger machine or an aluminum machine costs is nothing, but it is still a pretty complicated process. And like you were saying, it's the coordination of samples to make it cost effective. That's the difficult part. Yeah.
And so waiting on other people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the coordination level of it is very tricky. So yeah, it's been really cool to see that and try to help out because they're just everybody's sitting on stuff. There's not enough. There's too much work and not enough people to do it. So they finally said we got to train some validators. So we've been doing that. But man, this sounds like it can be useful in ways that we haven't even discussed. This could be used for a lot of other applications for sure.
Yeah, I love the idea of doing that, using the genomic data that's already out there that somebody did the work for, and you can just run it through one of those restriction mapper or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And it's all computer stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, some of these things you could probably go right now. I mean, I never even thought about that. I don't know if anyone's doing this, but you could be using the AFLP right now if there was enough full genome sequences of a given messy genus, and you could maybe clarify some stuff just from doing that.
Yeah.
You'd need enough sequences, but theoretically you could.
That's the problem. And you need the right name on the sequences. I think that's one of the major problems, right? That's where the validators come in, is you're going to have to, like, if somebody uploads a sequence and it's the wrong name, that could be really
I mean, we've been
confusing.
trained on all that, right? We're looking for holotypes, isotypes, right? They're very, very high level at, who to trust, who not to trust. And we're usually step one is to seek out quality data, like from somebody you can trust, who's the authority on that genus. Okay, so the authority on that genus recently uploaded this. It's associated with a paper. That's better data than this guy who we don't know who the fuck this guy is or where this came from. Or there's like multiple layers of rationalization to try to find out if it's quality, which is too bad. And this is why Stephen Russell likes using MycoMap, is because he knows he's already vetted the data that's in his microcosm of this, whereas GenBank, it's just a wild west. You can just upload anything you want. So man, this is
graduate students and master students who might not be experts quite yet in their little field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's also interesting too, just you're like, why did you upload that? Who are you? Where did you come from? Yeah. Like, did you just write a paper in your master's program and so you just uploaded it anyway when you didn't need to? Like, we as sequence validators, we're never uploading to GenBank. That's a decision that the higher up people are making, at a certain point in time, because for that same reason, they're not we're trying to reach a better understanding of whether the sequence was good and we can do anything with it. But the automatic move isn't just put it on GenBank, but yet there is just a bunch of garbage on GenBank for sure.
Oh yeah, well that's a requirement for some journals. Before you actually publish, you
Yeah.
have to have the GenBank accession numbers to
Yeah.
put in the paper. So
Yep.
so there could be, nobody might have really checked that data that much.
Yep.
If it's a small group that nobody, there might be 3 people in the world studying it.
Right.
They just got to get it up there so they can publish
Yep.
that paper.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean it's good quality.
Right. Yeah, man. Well, that's exciting. That'll be fun. We'll have to powwow on that a little bit more. If anybody's watching and you are one of these computer nerds and you like bioinformatics, you like data, you like playing with these computer programs and watching it crunch data and figure some shit out, reach out to Ed, reach out to me, and we'll put together a little group and we'll get rolling on this and make it happen. I think that would be fun. Yeah, man, I only had one other little note about something to talk about, but after that, I kind of feel like I want to leave on a high note, man.
I was trying to think too. There was one other thing.
The only other thing that I made a note of, is I think we had a brief conversation about vendors and educating people. And I'm not going to name names, but I have a friend who is a vendor, and they were saying how they can't believe how many messages they get that start with, I bought a bunch of genetics from somebody else, not you, but I'm in your DMs now asking you a bunch of questions about them. To which I said, all you got to say to these people is the person you bought the genetics from is probably the best person to ask questions about growing these genetics. If you're buying genetics from somebody who doesn't grow their stuff out and doesn't know about the stuff that they sell, you might want to find somebody else to buy genetics from in the future. That was sort of the canned response that I suggested they use. And I was telling you this, and you said that you heard about some vendors who were like, it's not my job to teach you how to grow these mushrooms. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that was it. I saw a discussion on one of the Facebook groups where it was kind of both. It was one side or the other. The people who were like, vendors are like, they should help the customers. And there was the vendors that were like, oh, it's not my job. I just sell quality products, I didn't realize that conversation was happening because I mean, if people ask me questions, I don't care if they bought something or not, I'm going to help them. But I guess maybe some other vendors are a little bit busier than me, maybe, and they don't really feel that it's their job. Like some of the all-in-one bag people, maybe they're like, like, I just sell you this thing, it's sterile when you get it, but if you do something to fuck it up, it's not my problem,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't take that approach.
No, but this was more genetics vendors where somebody buys something and then they go, how do I grow it? Now, the one thing I was saying to them was, I think a thing I've noticed people do is, okay, so let's say I buy something from you and then I say, all right, so I just bought this cross that you have. How would you grow it? You tell me how to grow it. And instead of listening to you and just growing it like that, since it came from you and I know you cultivate it, for some reason, there are these people that want to ask 10 people the same question.
Yes, it's that too.
And then reach like a consensus response to it.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
And they ask ChatGTP also.
And they ask ChatGTP and they Google it and all these things. And then, but what happens then is I also think it's like where, when you're asking your friends for advice, but you kind of know the kind of advice your friends give. And so when you want a certain advice, you talk to a certain person, right? Like if you want the advice of like, go for it, dude, the friend that you ask versus are you sure that's a good idea? That's a different friend you talk to. I think they do that as well, where they're like, okay, so Ed told me how to grow it, but I don't like his way. So I'm going to ask somebody else and I'm going to keep asking till I hear a way I like. I mean, that is not the right way to do this.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you say to do it a certain way and I physically can't do it. I don't have the financial means to do it. I don't have the living conditions that allow for it. That's one thing. But I really think that a lot of these people just go around and they just want to talk and kill time. So they're just asking everybody the same question over and over again, and they're just pissing a bunch of people off.
It could be that too. Or I've gotten like where people will ask questions and then I go on Discord and it's like, oh my gosh, that's verbatim the exact same question they just asked me.
Yeah. Oh, I
It's
see
like,
that all the time. Yeah.
it's like, I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time replying to that because there's like 20 people on Discord replying,
Already. Yeah.
saying the same thing I just spent 25 minutes writing.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, I don't know about you. I can envision it. I grow a modest amount of mushrooms. I got a bunch of little projects going on all the time. But it's like every millisecond of my day. There's like not a day I'm not doing something growing mushrooms. Never. And I know you and guys like DK, it's just like practically around the clock. And so if I ask you a question, I should really want the answer to it. And it, I should take heed of it instead of going, well, let's just see what Ed says about this. Let's talk to Ed for 20 minutes and then go do something else, because I already decided before I talked to Ed about that. Yeah, man, we gotta be courteous of people's time.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Or you spend a lot of time replying and then they just say, okay, period. And then they're gone. And it's like, oh my gosh, really? I thought you actually cared about that. Yeah, and then like it's just like you write several pages and then they're just like, okay.
Or better than okay is thumbs up.
Yeah. It's
like,
the
thumbs up.
Nothing
like, says
I'm replying to that.
Yeah,
but
dude.
Sometimes it goes both. There are people that maybe they're busy too, and maybe it takes you 30 minutes to reply, and by that time their kid's crying or something and they don't, they get distracted, and so it's not always, it's not like they're trying to be dicks or anything. It's just frustrating sometimes.
Or maybe they are, you just never even know, dude.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they're just wasting you.
You never know. We have talked about that before, but I think it's pretty fair as a vendor. I mean, this is sort of a bit of the topic we have never talked about. But if you're selling ape, right? Like fungi mycology, he sells a lot of ape LC. If I ask him how to grow apes, he's going to tell me. He's got a way, and if I follow that way, it's going to work. It's like what a vendor should do, right? Imagine buying a car and going back 2 days later and asking the salesman how to figure out how to set up something on the entertainment system or something like that, or the security system, or where's the dipstick or whatever. And that salesman looked at you and said, your problem now, buddy, figure it out. No one would ever do that. Or go to Best Buy and go, hey, can you show me how to use this remote? No, fuck you, buddy. That's just not how it works. You have to provide customer service around your products. You just have to do that.
That's why I was a little bit surprised. I think these people that were commenting with that attitude of like, once I sell it, it's your problem. They were like the really old school guys who maybe, to be honest, they maybe don't have the knowledge to answer certain types of questions. So maybe they get kind of annoyed and they're just like, they don't, it's a guy like selling pre-sterilized grain or something like that.
Right.
Like that's what they do. Maybe they don't really care that's what they do to pay the rent, and they get to a certain point where, it'd be like talking to some corn farmer in Iowa. Like, did you hear about that new cross from Syngenta? Like they probably don't really care that much. They're like, how can I grow more corn? Like, how can I sell my stuff?
How can I sell my stuff is definitely a primary concern of a lot of people. Now, some Dave channel just said, I think some vendors are fearful of recommending information that it may get them in trouble. I mean, but man, if you sell genetics and somebody's asking a question about growing it, I mean, I don't know how you get in trouble, but I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree with that one.
Maybe it goes back to that thing of they're going to compare and contrast other people's answers and be like, well, but this other person said that and you said this, and then maybe you're going to get like called out on something that you you said
Bro,
was the right way to do it. And
I don't know. Do you ever get this? I promise you. I mean, I can't prove this ever, but every once in a while, I get somebody who hops in my DMs and starts asking me a bunch of questions, and I can just tell, oh, this is your test for MycoGeeky conversation. You're just you already know, you think you know the answers to all these questions. You're gauging. You're giving me an exam in the DMs. You're trying to gauge how much respect you should have for me. It's abundantly clear that that's what's going on. And when I generally answer all those questions, then it's usually cool. Then they vanish.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
oh, okay. So you just needed to figure me out. Okay, that's fair, dude. Fine. But I don't know. It seems like a waste of time.
Well, I think they're fishing because they want you to say something wrong so they can screenshot it and be like, look at what he said. Oh,
Right.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like that.
Prove he doesn't know anything.
Word.
He's talked with 500 mycologists for hundreds and hundreds of hours, nonstop for 3 years, but he doesn't know shit about growing mushrooms.
Yeah, he used the wrong word. Oh, it'll be today. It'll be, he said restrictor enzyme, not restriction enzyme. It'll be a big controversy later tomorrow. But like, somebody will make a meme of it and put like a fucking banana in my mouth or some shit.
Speaking of memes, you want to know who's making great memes right now? James Cruz is making some great memes, which usually get posted on the Genetic House Mycotech. He's got some funny ones. And then there's another guy on Instagram that's doing some fucking hilarious memes right now. I'll have to do a post and share them this week so people can check them out. But we got to laugh at ourselves, right? There's a lot of drama in this community. There's a lot of tomfoolery. There's a lot of really big egos that just do not like to swim in the water with anybody else. And you can get mad about it or you can just laugh at it. And I like to just laugh at it, especially on a well-crafted meme.
Yeah. I'm looking at one of them now. Yeah, it's got a little girl with her face pushed up against the window.
Yeah. It's
that
pretty hilarious.
It's James.
Yes. Yeah, man. We all have different skills that we bring to this community. We all have different attributes.
Some people take themselves a little too seriously sometimes. Also, we do got to remember what we're doing here. When I was talking for 4 hours yesterday doing that workshop, it was like, we're just talking about growing magic mushrooms. It's like, this is pretty cool that we can do this, that we can openly do this. And I mean, people get kicked off of Facebook or whatever, but it's still fairly wide open and we could still pretty much do kind of what we want.
Yo, I don't ever have to worry about my ego getting too big because my wife will constantly remind me, you're just growing stupid fucking mushrooms in the basement. Yeah. I don't have anything to worry about because that's all I'm doing. I mean, every once in a while, when I walk into this lab area, I look around and I go, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I am all the way down this rabbit hole. Sometimes I was just pouring agar and I'm like, how many 48-year-old men with 3 kids are pouring 100 plates of agar today? Not many. Yeah.
I know. Sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night to go pee and I go to the bathroom and I look around, I'm like, what is all this shit? Like, where did I get that? Like, there's like everything wall-to-wall mushroom stuff. And I'm just like, wow, it's even behind me on the bed. It's like,
yo. And then content, I can't. For every post I have, I got about, and I'm not exaggerating, about 70 potential posts that I just never have time to post because I'm too busy doing other stuff. Things where I'm like, oh, this is going to make a great post about X, Y, and Z. Just didn't happen. I got those going back 2 years.
Yeah.
Where, what do I do now? How do
Yeah, I started saving them in little Word documents, and when I had like 8 of them lined up one week, I was like, I need to restart my computer, and I was just like, it was going to be 8 Facebook posts, and I was just like, after a certain point, you just got to kind of say like, I can think about that later, like, I don't need
that's
to get
the hard
it all
part
out now,
right? Is because if you're an influencer or you're trying to build your following, right, you got to be posting all the time. I just don't have time to do it all the time. I keep trying, but I
hard.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that consistency. I think, like we're saying, yeah, these guys who turn this into like a career or whatever, the guys who do like the travel stuff here, they're in like a new city every other day, and that must get really, really tiring. I mean, traveling's fun, but not when you got to document every second of it. In the airport, on the
Yeah. Oh,
bus, at the food, at the restaurant, at the hotel.
oh yeah, these travel
Just-
vloggers, right? The
Yeah.
attractive, 28-year-old couple that likes looking at themselves in the mirror and they go, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, everyone can look at me swimming in different hotel pools around the world." I mean, bro, you better really be bringing a lot of shit to the table.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, a boring ass person went to a hotel and then went to some tourist spots. Like, come on.
Yeah, you gotta have some charisma. I got a couple buddies
Yeah.
that tried that route, and it's like, dude, I don't want to be mean, but you're just not that charismatic or interesting to listen to. Like you described in the plate of noodles you're eating is not really gonna
Or
not
just
really gonna do it,
going,
man.
oh, look at this permanent marker.
Yeah.
Like some of them are so over the top.
Yeah,
We had so much
exactly.
fun. It's like, oh my God, I can just tell you guys are sick of each other because you've been
Yes.
traveling in hotels and cars with each other for 2 years straight. And you're too afraid to go home and live a mundane life like the rest of us. So you're just like in this
Yeah.
desperate limbo. Oh, dude. Yeah, I see. all
Yeah,
that
it's
shit.
probably like you get that dopamine rush all the time, right? When you're like editing or you go to a new place, and then
Yeah.
probably it's like those celebrities you see when they take pictures and they're all like, oh, smiling, and then like immediately they're like, oh, back to real life. Like I don't have to
Yep.
smile anymore. Like,
Yeah. Oh, bro. Yeah. One of my roommates for many years was a stand-up comedian, and you'd never know he's a stand-up comedian.
not funny at all at home. He's
Not funny at all. I mean, he went on stage and he could kill in a room, but just day to day, I mean, I crack more jokes than that guy did. He just,
yeah,
you just save it, right? If that's your job, it just it
Mhm.
changes it. It's like if you're friends with a doctor, last thing you ever want to do is, hey, what would you do? Right? They don't want to do their job for you for free.
oh,
But that's what everybody does when they go, hey, and that's why everybody's shocked when I respond to them. Everybody's shocked. Oh my God, thank you so much for responding to me. Because they usually don't get it. But there is a point where you're like, okay, bro. All right. This is like an hour now.
yeah, it could
You know
depend
what?
on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
Sometimes if
people-
they ask the right question, I can get into it. Oh, you asked a cool
Mhm.
question or something like that. But sometimes I'm just like, how many times I got to tell you I got Discord with 2,000 people in it, and I personally know like 300 of them, and they are really fantastic mushroom cultivators. You got 300 people that will answer that question for you in 2 seconds, and you'll get a response from the one who has some free time right now. It's like, I'm not doing this to be mean. You want the answer. And if I take the time to give you the answer, my kid's late for cheerleading. My kid's late for dance class. My kids don't get to school on time. Like, I at a certain point do have to prioritize my actual life. So,
yeah, for sure.
because if I don't get the kids to school, I don't get 5 days off to go to NAMA, brother. I gotta help out. I gotta earn my keep around here so I can go do fun myco shit.
Yeah, and tomorrow afternoon when you're ordering that like $2,000 worth of restriction enzymes,
Oh,
You're gonna
when
have
those
to-
restriction enzymes come in my little
And it's a
little
little
bubble
box.
mailer.
yeah, it's gonna be like a
Yes.
cellophane envelope like that with 4 little fucking Ependorfs in it.
Yep.
When you get
and
like 4 of these in an envelope and it's like $600, you can
$3
have to
grand,
explain
yeah.
that to your wife.
and when she goes, how can something that little cost so much? I'm just gonna grab her ring finger on her left hand and I'm gonna go, I don't know. You
Yeah,
tell
I
me.
know. Was it worth it? Is it useful?
You tell me. How can something so little cost so much?
Yeah.
Yes.
But for real though,
Yeah.
later, I mean, to give some incentive for people later, I mean, people are charging $500 a pop to do this, right? Like the people that are supposedly verifying crosses, aren't they
I
charging
don't
like?
even know. I can't even keep up with all that stuff,
I
dude.
think I
I
saw
don't know.
450. Plus, you got to give them your cultures.
Right.
The thing about doing this verification, you could just literally send like dried mycelium,
Yeah.
or you could,
Yep.
yeah, you could like inactivate the mycelium. So if you were worried about the person doing
hmm
the verification, that you could basically like
Yeah.
microwave the mycelium for a couple seconds.
Transparency. Just there are many things you could do to be on the up and up. Yes.
Mm. So yeah,
Agreed.
if you're spending 2,000 on restriction enzymes, 6 or 7, 8 of them, but you're making 450 to or even 99.99, it's like a DNA, like paternity tests. Like paternity tests
Yeah.
used to cost like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Now they're like
See, I don't know. I don't know.
right?
Without getting too far in the weeds on that, I don't know. I just never saw anything that looked like a scientific result or a COA or anything like that. So I just don't.
Exactly.
I kind of don't even think about it. Like once when I sent my Gasawi's in to George Selhorn at Flourish Labs to test, I got a COA back. He spent 20 minutes talking to me about what he did and why the results look like that and all that kind of stuff. I was like, this is what a scientist does. This is, it's transparent. I get all my information. I know exactly what he did. That's how that stuff should look.
Yeah, for real. It shouldn't be this kind of like whatever bro science or like some sort of like, I mean, I could see maybe not, like giving away all your secrets, like, but if you do like
just don't say your restriction enzymes.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
just don't give, or if it was the other way we were talking about, you don't have to give away the specific what is it, oligo something or other, like your
Yeah.
primer sequence. And I mean, there's plenty of ways of saying exactly what you're doing, and no one can still fucking do it unless they do all the work. So there's just no reason not to talk about how this is actually occurring. It should be transparent. And anybody paying money, like I can tell you right now, if you think if you ask George Selhorn, hey, why do you charge X number of dollars for what you do? He will walk you through how much standard he's using. He will tell you how he calibrates his columns. He will tell you how he'll tell you the whole thing so you have a better understanding of why it costs what it costs. Any testing lab, you're spending that kind of money to have work done. It should really feel like you're getting some science done for you. And that it feels legitimate.
Yeah, and you could reproduce it if you had like the enzymes or whatever. You could reproduce it.
I mean, that's science right there, dude.
Yeah, that's exactly reproduce. It's not like somebody said in the workshop. It shouldn't be just like, oh, trust me, bro. Like it shouldn't be just somebody saying like, yeah, just trust me. Yeah, that was a cross. Like it shouldn't be like a yes or no answer. You'd be like, if it was a cross.
But that has happened in science, right? People write papers, and they do. Some people, like some of these papers, you don't see these papers as often, but there are papers that are just really about like developing a new lab protocol for something or a standard or an approach to something. And you see one paper about it, then you never see it again, even though you read the paper and it says, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Well, if a paper written in 1991 that came up with some great thing to do, if you never see it again, probably wasn't the bee's knees, homie, and probably was not the bee's knees. Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but there's some better ways to skin a cat.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you claim you're skinning cats, I'd like to see the skinless cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I wonder where that came from, that phrase. I think I used to know. Something about tennis rackets and cats or something.
That sounds about right. See, I don't even care. I live in the modern world. I will believe whatever you say, Ed, if you say it with enough confidence and authority. Doesn't even matter. Right? Doesn't matter. If my grift is good enough, you're going to believe me.
Yeah, they just got busted another one of those Ponzi kind of, what are they called, pyramid schemes here. It's like big news over here, kind of like the Amway type of thing, and it was like, so it's like billions of dollars of stuff. Yeah, they're just like the last couple of weeks they've been going crazy because all these people just basically trusted these celebrity endorsers, these influencers. And it's just like, it's crazy. There's like a lot of stuff going on over here with that now.
That's
Like
old
they would
school.
like,
If you take one
yeah.
college level class on marketing, you know, you learn about just basic propaganda bandwagon, right? Celebrity bandwagon. That's like a basic thing. Wait, Michael Jordan wears those shoes? He's the greatest basketball player of all time. If I buy his shoes, I'll be great.
Yeah.
It's what we
That's,
do. We're that simple. We're all a bunch of fucking sheep. We're so easily manipulated.
yeah.
I
That's
like
why.
Ryan Reynolds. Oh, these Boost, or what is his little cell phone company? I can't remember. Boost Mobile, I think. I don't know.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so clever and it seems so modest. I mean, we do this every day, all
Yeah.
the time.
It's Hollywood celebrities selling like multivitamins and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell do they know about nutrition? Like, they
Or
don't know
50 Cent invented vitamin water.
Yeah, like
And
you're
dude,
like,
he's
when
been
was the
interviewed
last?
about this. And he said, I went into the store one day and there was like a $4 bottle of water. And I just said to myself, people are paying $4 for water. Holy shit. Why do I'm not going to write rap music anymore. And he said he went back to his manager and said,
Oh
I want to sell
gosh.
water. And he said his manager looked at him and said, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
He
like
said, no,
what?
seriously, I want to sell water. And so, I mean, didn't give out details, but the next thing you know, what does he sell? Flavored water. I mean, it worked for Coca-Cola. Why not? And now he's like a fucking billionaire. Selling water. We're doing it wrong, guys. Don't grow mushrooms. Sell water.
Yeah.
That's all you got to
But you
do.
got to build up your rep, you know. You got to get your street cred before you start selling
Get
water.
shot 5 times, survive it, write really good rap music, get produced by the right guy, and then pivot into water.
Mm.
Bro, I used to work for I don't want to out myself too much, but I used to work for this guy Peter Guber. He's a big Hollywood guy. And but like he was one of them big Hollywood guys where he had a production deal, but like he wasn't really making a lot of movies and all this stuff. And but they had a sports division and they had an off the sports division, a couple of his guys, they would just take meetings all the time. So it was just basically them pitching ideas to rich people about how to get richer all the time, every day. I got to see and talk to quite a few, like not Hollywood types, but famous people, a lot of football people, a lot of sports stars and stuff. And they just get pitched ideas all the time. The minute you have celebrity, you know, they just want to, it's like, who is that chick that, Jessica Simpson, right? Who the fuck is she? She sang some songs. She's pretty. But now she has like a clothing line with Kmart or Target or something like that. And she's made like insane amounts of money off that.
I don't know how that.
I'm just waiting for Dave Wombat to launch like a Hawaiian t-shirt company.
Yeah, that's what I
Something
was
like
just thinking.
that.
The merch. That's how people get started, maybe with the merch.
Just gotta do the merch. That's when you've
Maybe get
made it.
sponsored by like some skateboard like company or something.
Exactly.
Like Wombat Deck Designs or something.
Yep. The minute my face is on the bottom of a skateboard, just getting ground up by curbs, that's when I know I've made it.
It's like the new Jack Frost deck from Dave Wombat LLC.
Yes. Yeah, man. Yep.
I always wondered that when people like put the faces of like celebrities or people they loved on the bottom of their decks, and then you're doing like rail slides. It's like, aren't you kind of like you're grinding the face of your loved one off the bottom of your deck? Like it's like that. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Speaking of that, man, did you Happy Hyphae posted a cool video of him doing skating when he was young? Yeah, he's pretty solid, man. That was a good video.
Oh yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know I didn't know that was another aspect of his life.
Yeah, he made me want to go dust off my skateboard and start riding with him.
know.
I was like, so we can go morel hunting and skateboard.
Yeah, I don't do that, dude. Like we're way too old. I stepped on a skateboard a couple like years ago, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Never, ever, ever get on a
Yeah.
skateboard again." She's
I
like, "You're
can,
gonna fucking kill
I can,
yourself." I don't want.
I can still ride a skateboard. I mean, I lived in California for 16 years. I can still ride a skateboard. I probably won't be doing too many kickflip ollies anymore, though.
I think this is not the problem riding it. It's when you fall, inevitably fall.
Yeah.
I still
Oh,
have
that's me with mountain
scars
biking
from
now,
my
man.
yeah.
I still mountain bike pretty aggressively, and but boy, oh boy, I don't do quite the same stunts I used to, because when I fall, I
Yeah.
don't get up right away.
Oh
I just
yeah.
stay down for a minute, like,
You're
okay,
like, ow, oh,
yeah,
oh yeah, like
yes.
you're just like, maybe I'm gonna take a few seconds to get up here.
All right, here we go. B. Hendricks just said, "Did you guys see the mushroom drink lady on Shark Tank the other night?"
No,
I
that's what I was
didn't.
thinking about Shark Tank. Yeah, that show where they pitch the ideas. I
Mushroom
didn't know
drink.
if that was an older show. I just see it on YouTube. I didn't know if it was still on or not. They've got like an Australian version of it also. So yeah, the Australian guys will get on there. Some shark deterrent device, some, I don't know, like some cat dye or electrochemical thing.
All right,
Stuff you forget.
this might be it. I might have found it. Little Saints is a mushroom-infused beverage company that appeared on season 16 of Shark Tank. All right, here it is, guys. What do they got in there? All right, I'm gonna share this just so you guys can check it out.
I got my Hericium cultured a fruit off of grain spawn the other day, and I was like, maybe I should get some hardwood fuel pellets.
What
Like I
kind of
cloned
grain spawn did it fruit off of?
just my rice, my paddy rice.
Oh,
Like it
no
was
way.
about 2 months old, and it was in the bag, and I was gonna get some hardwood fuel pellets or sawdust, and I just
Uh-huh.
didn't get around to it. And yeah, it fruit. They're not huge, but they're probably 2 inches. They're getting bigger though. I opened them up and put them in the
Nice.
tent, and it's just off like about a 300-gram bag of that rice spawn.
Yeah, man, get some Master's Mix going.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna. It reminds me, I need to order that today. It's in my.
All right, these are mocktails. What the fuck is even? This is the problem with all this stuff. What's actually in it?
I know.
I can't. You can't even
Probably.
clean, and I know that it's sugar free. I know it is plant rich, and I know it almost looks like it says no clean ingredients. Okay, skip the sugar hangover. What is this crap?
Gotta be gluten free and halal, and I saw some brownies. They were selling the medicinal brownies, like weed brownies here, and they had like all of those 8 to 10 keywords like gluten free and all this.
All right, it has botanical terpenes in it.
Oh, there you go. Botanical terpenes.
Organic reishi mushroom extract, citric acid, vegetable juice, just for color though. Okay. Yeah, man. All right, there it is. What's in it? It doesn't matter. It looks
Yeah, it's
cool.
the marketing and the branding, right? That's the thing. Is
All that
most of
matters.
this stuff is just, how do you sell water? It's just marketing, branding, the way the label looks, the size of the
Vitamin
bottle.
water.
Yeah.
I take vitamins in the morning
Yeah.
and I drink water.
Yeah,
And I'm running out of
grandma
time.
said-
Put the two together. I mean, come
yeah,
on, guys.
everybody's terrified of getting old. You prey on that. Everybody's afraid of getting old and ugly and fat, I guess. Well, people don't care about getting fat anymore, right? But
They care, but
Yeah.
not enough to not get fat.
What?
They all care, not enough to not get fat.
No, dude.
I mean, bro, I'm not even lying. It's America. You would be fatter if you lived in America. You probably would.
Oh, even here, man, the stuff that they sell in the stores here now, it's the junk food aisle. Like a 7-Eleven, they've got the fresh food in the refrigerators, and then you get to those center aisles, and it's all stuff you should not eat.
Yep.
Like anything that's been sitting on that shelf for more than 6 months and is still edible, like maybe you should just stay away from that.
Bro, some of the bread, if you buy like the cheap buns, the cheap hamburger buns, you can toss them up on the top of the refrigerator, come back 3 months later, and they're good. I mean, they're hard, but they're not, there is no mold on them because all the nutritional value has been sucked out of them.
Frightening. Yeah, they sell tortillas here now that are room temperature. You just buy them at room temperature. You can open them up and they got a little zipper on them, and you just don't even need to refrigerate them.
Why?
It's I
It's
don't
not
know.
food, Ed.
Like 3
That's-
months later, and they're literally they look exactly the same. They're still soft, and it's like wow. Like I can't even grow mushrooms on tortillas. Like I can't grow mold on tortillas.
Yep. The phosphates and the phosphites and the phthalates
Oh
and
yeah, that
yeah, man, we are well preserved.
pyrophosphate.
We are well preserved already. Yeah, it's crazy. Man, all I know about some of these mushroom teas and mushroom coffees is there's value from the extracts. But I think the absolute best mushroom coffee product I ever had. Man, first off, I love my neighbor's coffee. Spore Spark tastes so good. But he does not have chaga in his because one of the qualities he was looking for is that it really seemed like coffee, so it wouldn't have a chalky, powdery quality to it, which anything with chaga will have that. But chaga's amazing. Chaga actually makes me feel significantly better on days that I have it. But you have to have dried, ground up chaga in it.
Yeah. So they have to like pulverize it, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
gotta be, like,
pulverized, and
powdered.
chaga's hard as shit, dude.
Yeah.
I bought a big commercial processor to grind that shit up, and it still barely could grind it up. So yeah, there's a lot to it. But
Yeah,
what are
I
you gonna
ruined
do?
a
Marketing.
coffee grinder with Rishi. I
Oh, that's
mistakenly
easy.
tried-
Yeah. No, it should
Yeah.
it should grind up the ratio, no problem. But
Oh, when
No,
I
that-
sliced it, it was okay. But when I tried putting some big chunks in there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it didn't like that too
it
much.
won't do that. Yeah, and when you grind the ratio up, it's like fluffy. It's like you want to
Yeah, yeah.
stuff it in your pillow and
That's
sleep
what
on
I
it.
was thinking exactly.
And sleep on that. I'm like, this is the fluffiest. This would make a really fluffy pillow. That's a good marketing right there.
There you go, man.
You-
We came up with like
you
5
have-
like, little
you have
business
to-
ideas.
You can't sleep on cotton anymore. You can't sleep
Yeah,
on polyester filler. You can only sleep on reishi infused pillow beds.
Yes. Provides the varnish conch.
Yes.
Varnish conch pillows.
With just the fine quality reishi infused pillows made by MycoGeeky are augmented by just a bit. Just
gluten-free.
the tiniest bit of
Oh.
gluten-free wood here.
Kosher.
Like
Now they're not cage raised. They're free range, varnish.
free range, no cage, named.
cruelty free varnish.
If I don't know the name of the hen, I will not eat the egg. And I need to know that someone pet it at least 5 times a day for at least 3 years of its life. It's crazy, man. It's so we're so inundated with marketing all the time, and I mean, do you see these TikToks where it's just like Android versus iPhone? Oh, it's just class wars. It's just or it's like caste wars, like in India, right? Just getting people to pick sides. iPhones are better. No, Androids are better. They all suck. I can criticize all of them, and they all do cool things. Who cares, guys? There's way more to life than this.
Yeah, I saw one of those ADHD doers or something. I think I started watching all this ADHD stuff because you talk about a lot. So I joined some of these groups, and it was a woman like comparing 2 spoons. And she was
I
like,
saw that
one is
one.
obviously better. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going
Bro,
on. Is
I
this...
picked the one she said I would pick, by the way.
So then I start reading down it, and other people were like, no, she's wrong.
But did you,
I don't...
but what one did you pick?
I didn't pick either one because I was like, this sounds like a trick or something. They're trying to trick me into doing something. So I'm like, I'm not going to fall for the little psychological trick here.
I looked up the DSM-4.
I refuse to participate.
Yeah, I looked up in the DSM-4 or 5 or whatever iteration they're on now. And spoon selection is not diagnostic criteria for ADHD diagnosis. So this is bullshit. It's like these parenting advice ones, dude. Oh my God, my wife will send me these these little YouTube shorts or little Instagram shorts from some parenting expert, and then you look up like who they are. They're nobody.
Mm.
They don't have a degree in anything. They're just somebody who decided they're an expert on raising kids and had a point of view, which is cool, but just say, I'm just a guy with a point of view. But some of them really like try to act like they're, they put on their outfit, the I'm an expert outfit or whatever.
Mm.
And they're not always an expert. We got to be real careful these days. Like who we're just taking for taking their advice, and like, who is this person? I've had fights over this advice where I'm like, oh my God, I have to argue with my wife about just because one person on Instagram told her we should be raising our kids this way.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Yep. Baron just said, hold on. Open sourced, free range, kindly harvested, sustainable reishi pillows. Yes.
So,
I mean, I don't have the time, guys. We are giving you guys ideas all night here. Just run with any one of them. If you actually think these wouldn't sell, you're deluded. I promise you, if this existed on Amazon, or if somebody had a cute girl laying down on one of these pillows on TikTok,
there you go.
this shit would sell
go.
out. You would not be able to keep it in stock. And Ed's laughing, but I'm dead fucking serious.
No, it's funny
we
you said
fall
that
for it
because
all.
when I ground up reishi, that was the first thing I thought about. I was like, wow, this is like goose down.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
they
like,
used to
oh,
make
do I
those.
like eat this?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was also thinking. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like how's that gonna go through? Is it gonna like absorb a bunch of water in my intestine and like I'm not gonna
gotta-
shit for a month?
Exactly, man. It's like a fiber,
Plugged
like
in.
Mucilex. You add, or not Mucilex. What is that? Metamucil. It's like
Metamucil.
Metamucil. Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah.
It's either gonna go through really, really quick, or one big chunk is just gonna get stuck in there. It's like I don't know which way it
Yeah.
could go either way.
Yep. Here we go. Some more sage wisdom from that 44 RDV 4RK. I don't 44 R. It's like a plan. Aardvark, maybe. I don't know.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking. Aardvark. So
In a large enough market, anything sells. Man, it's true. I mean, look, we got 11,000 people subscribed to the MycoGeeky Podcast. Now we are just two weird dudes sitting in our
Yeah.
basements
See, if
talking
one
about
of us
growing
put-
mushrooms.
one of us needs to show some more flesh, man. Like, come on.
I mean, you went over
One of us
3
needs
hours
to-
without doing
and
that.
put on a push-up bra and
Yeah. Yep. Wear a blonde wig.
there you go.
I wonder if our views would go up if I wore a blonde wig.
They might, but it might be a different crowd. You might
They
be.
might. You never know. Yeah. Oh, so my friend Myco Dandy, she started doing some content, and she had a foraging video. I hope she doesn't get mad at me telling this story, but I think it's
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
She had a
know where this is
foraging
going.
video, and I guess just a little bit of it, she had on some, I don't know if it was Crocs or Birkenstocks or what, but it showed her toes and the whatever sandal type shoe wear she was wearing. She had literal people messaging her requesting to show her feet in her videos more.
Mm. Yeah, I met a guy the other night. He was like, there was a girl sitting at the next table and he was like staring at her. And I'm like, what the hell are you staring at? He was staring at her toes and he was like, look at her toes. I was like, yeah, that's nice, dude. That's weird. Like, but I guess some people are into that stuff, man.
I mean, so
Like,
it's you can study fetishism, and the feet are just have no part of the sexual reproductive process whatsoever, and yet there are people that is everything to them.
yeah, you
They
should.
are
I should.
truly obsessed with feet for some reason.
This guy went on for like 10 minutes talking about how other girlfriends he had in the past and how much and what he did with their feet.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but
I mean, definitely not the weirdest fetish
No,
that
not
exists
at
these
all.
days. Just like our buddy Aardvark said, in a large enough market, anything sells. Wow, online pornography has definitely proven that to be extremely true.
that's true.
I mean, and I say that I mean, it is insane. I mean, whatever happened to just naked people having sex? That's not good enough anymore.
Nah.
Not good enough anymore.
That's your grandpa's porn.
It's gotta get super weird now. I'm getting old. I'm 48. Yep. Bardicus just said, I think toes and feet are pretty tame as far as some of that shit goes. Yeah, 100%, man. See, this is what happens, guys. It's after midnight. It's like when you were a kid and you had a sleepover and you stayed up late, and then about anywhere between midnight and 2 a.m., everything got weird. Everything was funny. That's what happens. That's how this goes.
So did she start showing her toes more?
I don't know. I don't know.
I remember a couple years ago, a girl put a post up and she had the mushroom right in front of her cleavage, and that turned into like this 600 comment thing back and forth about why. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group all about that.
Oh yeah, that's right. So.
I mean, I love mushrooms, but I don't want to have sex with mushrooms, and I don't want mushrooms by people I want to have sex with, to tell you the truth. Like, I do not need to conflate those two things. I do not want to be foraging for mushrooms and get in the mood. That is not what I'm going for here.
Yeah, not that kind of mood.
No.
And also, plus, if you conflate those things and then one of them gets fucked up, then the other one gets fucked up,
Yeah,
so
you don't want to ruin mushrooms.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Definitely don't want to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Like if you went mountain biking with your ex-girlfriend or some shit, or your ex-wife, like you wouldn't want to go mountain biking anymore, because you'd be like, God damn it, every time I go mountain biking now I'm thinking about the ex. Like,
see, I never did that. I never thought about the exes. I don't know what it is, the way my brain works. If I don't want to be with you, I'm not thinking about you anymore. And if you don't want to be with me anymore, bye-bye. I mean, there are fucking 7 billion people on Earth. I guess I just never, the minute people didn't, I was never possessive like that. Oh, you don't want to, you don't want to date anymore? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'll move on. I don't know. My brain did not work that way. Thank God. Because I saw other friends of mine really toil about some of that stuff.
I think for me, it's just like maybe restaurants and stuff like that. But usually when you go to that same restaurant with somebody else, it's like you can overwrite that. It's like computer RAM. You just got to like overwrite it with like, so maybe you go mountain biking with somebody else, and then you're like, oh yeah. I
mean, you get back on the horse. You get back on the horse. I mean, there's no human being on Earth that, right? I don't know. People who believe in one true love.
Oh no, that's bullshit.
Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You see the divorce rates? That can't be true.
When you live over here, monogamy is a very, very like Western thing. This is like a very Western Christian thing. You don't realize it till you get outside of America. Like the rest of the world doesn't really believe in monogamy. It's like,
well, and also if you study marriage just as a concept, in the beginning it was done for advantage, right? People were married for advantage. One tribe didn't want to be warring with the other tribe, so the tribe's daughter was married to the other tribe's son, and now that they have to be at peace now, right? This was all strategy and taxes, and the concept of true love. I looked into this one time. I think it was somewhere around 1600, somewhere 14 to 1600, where this notion of romanticism, finding the one and all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, right? Nobody. What are the odds? If it's true, there's only one true love for you, then it's actually probably more true that there's nobody for you. If uniqueness is a thing, right? Like, I'm so special and unique. There's only one other people for me, right? You don't even got to dip your feet too far into genomic and bioinformatics, right? To return back to, yeah. It's just not, the odds are not there. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what do we do? Oh, sorry, go.
If you're that guy out there looking for something beside, if you haven't found your true love, go to restrictionmapper.org. You could spend a lot of time. And later on, maybe you can put like a chat room in there, and you can find like a date or something. Like, are you really, did you see that new BAM1H enzyme? It's a 10 base pair restriction.
Yeah. I mean, in general, right? I don't know if people are thinking, they think it's got to be a sport. I think a lot of men think it's like hunting. I have to go hunt down my mate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
but this
gosh.
day and age, like, what do you like to do? Go do that shit. If you like mushrooms, if you like mountain biking, if you like painting, if you like traveling, scuba diving, if you like, I don't know, remote control cars, whatever weird ass shit you like, just keep doing that stuff. Try to do some of that stuff with people. I mean, I guess if you like reading books, then you're kind of fucked, but just do shit and talk to human beings and don't go on these goddamn apps. They say something like 60% of all people find their partners on apps now.
Yeah,
What the
gosh,
fuck?
yeah, even here, I think it's probably more, probably like 80. Because I mean, at least the people I know, there's because this big city, you're in a big city with lots of people, but there's
Yeah,
no, like, you're all just kind of wandering around
yeah,
independent of everybody. So you don't go to like play volleyball or go down to the park,
yeah,
or
yeah,
people don't even go like just to wander around the mall or whatever. Like, people don't do that anymore. That's all online shopping, and you watch movies at home on your computer, and it could become very weird.
I can't
But
even
you're
imagine just going like this and then matching, and then I guess you meet and then sitting down at the date and just being like, well, so we both agreed that we've, artificially, superficially, like, want to fuck each other or like looking at each other. Now let's find out if we like who we are. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's what everybody does now, so I guess it
Yeah.
must work.
I remember just like 15 years ago how weird it was. It was like you would be embarrassed to say you met somebody online, and now that's usually the.
Oh my
Well, how
God,
did you
I'd have
meet?
been
How did you meet?
really embarrassed.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
but like, you're a loser. Like, what do you mean? What do you like on like a porn site? What do you mean you met online?
yeah,
Like, what?
yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, man, I lived in LA and I did Match.com for a hot second, and
Mm.
like the two chicks I dated for a while ended up kind of being like psycho actresses, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Then I had a friend who worked for, I think it was called eHarmony. I don't know if that's still
Mm.
around, but she worked there and she was like, hey, I can get you a free subscription. We want to collect data. We're like still trying to study like if our approach works. And so they matched me with a bunch of people and I went out on, I don't know, 8 or 9 dates. And like everybody they matched, the whole approach was that they ask you like a million questions. They basically do like a psych profile on you to try to match you more accurately.
Mm.
And so everybody I met, I like clicked with and had great conversations right away. But it was like I was just want to be friends with everybody. There was none of the physical
Yeah,
component. So I was
that's
like,
what I was saying.
after that, I was like, I'm done with this. I mean, I encounter human beings every day. I see pretty women I can talk to. I don't have to use these stupid apps. Yeah.
The younger guys, like you were saying about the hunt, like there is that sort of natural kind of idea that, like, men kind of they want to find the prize or get the prize. But
Sure.
some of the younger guys I meet, they don't have that motivation. They don't have the skills or the motivation to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's really, really weird meeting some of the younger guys. These guys will come over here and they're teachers for a year or two. And like I don't got skills, man. I ain't got no skills, but like I can still like kind of carry a conversation a little bit. But these guys are like
Yeah.
zero to like no, like they're very, very, very poor social skills, I guess. Like they just
Oh,
don't
they
know
do
how to
all
do it.
this. They're just doing
Yeah,
this
just
all the time. Yeah, they can't even talk to people. And then
even
everyone has
talking to a
social anxiety now. Social
yeah.
anxiety, why? To talk to a human being, you have social
Mm-hmm.
anxiety? Yes. Come on, guys.
It's getting way, way, way worse. Yeah.
It is
You know,
getting
you
way, way, way worse.
You remember when you had to do your presentations, in high school or college or whatever? Well, like if you're never exposed to that, you're never forced to do it. You just don't develop those skills.
Right.
And then by the time you're 30, you're just like, you can't, it's kind of like almost too late. Like,
It's
you
too
should have
late.
developed those skills when you were like 18 to 25, not like 30 to 40.
It's like me
kind of-
going tomorrow. I'm gonna get serious with basketball, and I'm gonna outdo Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant. Too late, buddy. Too late for a bunch of reasons, but overall, too late. Yes.
But that skateboarding career is still an option, though.
Oh, cruise for sure. Yeah. Oh, skateboarding for him for sure. I was a good little BMXer, little BMX freestyler.
Yeah, it was
but,
for a while too.
But yeah, not. I could do an abubaca. I could do a front yard, backyard. I could do a lawnmower. I could do all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, all cool little tricks. Dennis McCoy, that was my idol. I love Dennis McCoy.
Oh yeah, I think he was I had a red line at one time. I think he was
Mhm.
riding for a red line, wasn't he? That was one of the many bikes. That
Maybe
got
for a
stuck.
while. I don't. What wasn't he a
Yeah.
Haro guy?
Yeah, Haro.
Is-
Yeah,
He is
I
a
think it was
Haro guy.
yeah.
Yeah. Him,
Yeah.
Josh White. Yeah. Oh, I was a Haro guy. I had a Haro Sport. But my dream bike was a GT Pro Freestyle Tour team model, but I couldn't afford it.
You know, some of those, well, especially when you get that first or second bike stolen and you're like, wow, like an $800 bike is just too
Yeah,
much incentive.
I got my Sport stolen. Sucks. Super sad.
That's
Yep.
when I realized, yeah, the world was not very nice. That, yeah, somebody stole my, I forgot which one I had at that point. I think it was a Diamondback, and it was on
yeah.
my front porch, and I
You
just
had
forgot to
did you
lock
have the white
porch.
mag wheels?
No, I had the
Oh.
the Z rims. The local
Oh,
shop,
yeah.
he had
Okay.
Z rims, and he actually like made them himself, and
Nice.
yeah, it was just sitting on my front porch, and that was just too much. I forgot to lock the porch door, front door one night, and next morning it was gone.
The guy
Like,
who stole
wow.
mine, he's in prison now, and he's been there for about the last 14 years, and I think he's going to be there for the rest of his
But
life.
not from the bike stealing, I doubt it.
Not
but,
from the
right,
bike.
He moved on.
He moved on to do some very hard, very serious crime.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon
mean
some
streets.
of
The mean streets of Muskegon, brother. Yes.
Yeah.
You already know. You're from the same, roughly the same area.
the dudes. Yeah, it starts off the same way. Christmas lights, and then it's like, you know, knocking mailboxes down, and then the bikes, and then the car stereos, and then the
Yep. The
Oh,
bikes,
but
the car stereos, and then sky's the limit for criminal activity.
yeah, once you start the actual B&Es, it's like, I think that's when it's downhill. You're like, wow, I just actually broke into someone else's house. Like I think that's where you're like 2 steps away from rape and murder at that point. You're just
Yeah.
like-
Oh, so this guy actually broke after doing that 3 or 4 years later, after I went away to college. He broke into my parents' house and stole a bunch of my mother's heirloom jewelry. And my dad started buying a bunch of guns. And my dad was in Vietnam, and he is not a guy to be fucked with. I can tell you that. And he said, I'm not going to name this guy's name, but he's like, if I find that guy in my house again, he goes, they will not be able to identify that motherfucker. He is going to be beyond dead.
Yeah, that's what's sad is they steal from people they know. This is what one of my friends in high school too.
3
he
houses
broke in-
down, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
people are not thinking. They are not
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, he broke into like his aunt's house and like stole some microwave. It's like, what are you doing, dude? It's like that dopamine rush. It was like, it's just like you had to start low, and then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I completed that task.
And you
now I
really
can
just
move on
want to
something.
say to him, you want to be like, buddy, why are you doing all this? You could just culture vulture.
Do a culture vulture.
I mean, if you want easy money,
Oh.
just culture vulture. Boom.
Oh yeah, that got started the other day. I quickly with somebody, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get out of that discussion," because
If
yeah,
all
there's
you do is obtain a plate culture or a liquid culture or whatever's in a microcentrifuge tube, and all you do is take it out and put it on another plate and expand it, and then another plate and expand it, and then another plate, and you don't grow mushrooms, you're a piece of fucking shit. You are taking money away from the people who actually grow mushrooms and work them and care about them and actually want to contribute to this community. And I got zero love for those people. And those people know who they are, and they already know I know who they are. And that's why some of those people don't like me. but those people can get the fuck out of here for as far as I'm concerned. Like, come on. And then the people, because they're $3 cheaper, they buy from those people all the time on the download. They don't want to brag about it, but they buy from those people all the time because they're cheaper. Undercutting everybody. To what end? So nothing's worth anything. And so what are we left with? Everybody's going to leave the community except for the people who truly love doing this. And then the real stars will shine. So it's, I guess in the end, it'll be all good.
I think so. Like you said the other day, it's consistency. You know, the people that consistently show up and consistently help the community. I think those will be the people that stick around. It may take 5 or 10 years or whatever. Probably not that long, but you can already see now there's been this sort of like big culling kind of, I think, in the last year or so, and then it's kind of paring down.
I mean, even the Facebook change has been definitely weird. People I used to talk to a lot, I don't talk to as much anymore, or I gotta kind of go out of my way to find them and talk to them. That's definitely been a little difficult. But yeah, so hold on real quick. Crypto tonight. Hey, crypto every night, crypto tonight, not just tonight, any night, every night. What can we do to avoid buying from these people? I mean, it's not rocket science, but it does take a bit of discernment. There are people that you might not ever know because what some of the guys do is they get anytime you see a bunch where frequently what you see is, one of my customers, you know, here's a customer photo, customer photo, customer photo, customer photo, customer photo, and none of their own photos. That means they're not growing mushrooms. So that's one way. You gotta, and on Facebook, you used to be able to kind of read between the lines. If somebody was using other people's photos, they'd call them out on it. They'd get outed real fast. On Instagram, it's a little bit trickier. You know, you can always ask me who quality vendors are. Ed Grand is a quality vendor. Happy Hyphae is a quality vendor. James Cruz is a quality vendor. Natural State, Dichotomous Keys. The list goes on. I can tell you probably a list of 100 or more people, at least people I know who are growing mushrooms and selling genetics from the mushrooms that they grow. There are, however, to be fair, there are a bunch of people growing mushrooms now, and I can't keep up with everybody. So there's probably a lot more great people out there that I just don't even know about. But get to know them. If they answer your questions, if they take the time, if they stand by their product, that's a good sign. If you say, hey, I got a question, you know, I'm brand new, I might make some mistakes. What happens if I screw something up? How they choose to respond to you will also tell you a lot about those people. Just feel them out, man. How would you date a chick or a guy? How would you figure out if this is the kind of person you want to actually have a relationship with? Because you are ultimately having some sort of relationship with that vendor, because you will have questions for them. You will, ideally, if you find a good vendor, keep buying from them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good way. Yeah, create some line of communication. So even if at least you know who they are. You know, you might. It's difficult to find some people, to be honest. Like you can't, like if they don't have a way to access them. You know, even if it's an email or whatever.
Look at that here, right? He's got a channel. He freely shares information all the frickin' time. He goes on other podcasts. He does a lot of mushroom cultivation and breeding, makes all that stuff available. I mean, these are all signs, right? Like, and you see a lot of posts with examples of what the fruit look like. You see a lot of YouTube videos showing how he does what he does. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that he's really doing all the things he says he's doing. Dichotomous keys, right? He's got too many photos. He has got 1 trillion photos of 1 trillion crosses. This guy's never not crossing mushrooms, growing mushrooms. This is another guy, right? Like he's definitely in it to win it. Brock Lee, James Cruz, Happy hyphae. These are people who every time I go to talk to them, they don't respond right away. And they usually say something like, sorry, I was in the middle of making substrate. Or every time I have a voice message with them, I hear their flow hood in the background. I hear a pressure cooker going on. You want a clue? Is start voice messaging these people. If you don't hear a flow hood or a pressure cooker going on in at least half their videos, they might not be growing very many mushrooms. Just be a detective. Ask around.
That's funny.
Get the word on the street. Yeah. That's probably the way to do it. But there, Edda's got a bunch of amazing stuff. DK does, Happy does, Natural State. There are so many cool people to buy stuff from. I would probably, the first people I would buy genetics from would be the people who you like, who take time to talk to you, who have good information, who show you pictures of what they're doing. Like, it's not rocket science. And with all that said, you're still going to fuck up and get screwed over by somebody. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the people got the scam accounts too, right? That's what I didn't realize. Like that hasn't happened to me, I don't think yet. But some of the other people had trouble with that before. Some of the bigger guys that were.
Now we say, start out with a very small initial order. Why are you going all in the first time you ever? Why buy $400 worth of shit from somebody that you don't know who they are? Buy one thing. Buy a swab set. See if that takes fucking forever. When all they got to do is throw it in a fucking envelope. Like, start small. Yeah, inoculate the world. They've been around forever. The full-time job. Lots of quality genetics from them. Yes, 100%. Like, do they have a website? Is there stuff available online? Do they have an online social media presence? Like Ed said, do they have an email? Are they accessible? These are who they're my ideal people that I buy genetics from. I know they're all about the cultivation. They do exceptional work. I know their swabs are fresh. I know their clone cultures are fresh. I know they actually work on isolating stuff, and I have a relationship with them. I mean, it's too easy to have a online relationship with somebody on some level. It doesn't have to be, I'm not talking BFFs. I'm just saying I have talked to this person online. There's some, there's some back and forth. And then I go, I like this person. I want to check out some of their work. And there's a lot of people in this community who are not formally vendors who do great work that if you become friends with them, you can start trading things with them. Say, I'd love to get my hands on that. I mean, I don't sell genetics, but I have definitely distributed genetics to people who ask for it. Oh yeah, we're buddies. Sure, I'll send you a zap culture. Sure, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I would do it. If you're a woman, you can hop into the ladies of mycology, and there's like 18,000, 20. I don't know where we're at now. 180 million people. Every woman on earth is in ladies of mycology, and some of them got to be vending in there. I'm sure there's a bunch of amazing people in there. I don't think it's hard to find the good vendors if you're willing to talk to some people. If I asked Ed, could you tell me 3 people who buy genetics from you that I could talk to about their experience of buying genetics from you? I don't think that would be a problem for him. Right? It's like when you hire a contractor. Right? Can you find...
It's nice when I even see people talking about me in good ways on like, I was just checking Discord yesterday, and I really appreciate that when people get like good stuff and they're like, oh yeah, that stuff was really good, no contam, all that. Yeah, that's that kind of reputation you just got to kind of earn it, I guess, after a while by getting quality stuff and you're giving out quality stuff.
Yeah, dude, man, I'm on Etsy with my sterilizers. I build these sterilizers. They take me 4 frickin' hours almost to make them. They are not cheap, but my time is worth something. And Etsy gets over 10. I think they get almost 11% of every sale. And people always are like, oh, why are you selling on Etsy? I sell on Etsy because the rating system on Etsy, I have no influence over. I cannot manipulate the reviews. I cannot delete a review. I have no control over it. So if I have a 5-star rating, I got a fucking 5-star rating. That means everybody who's ever bought a sterilizer from me was happy with it. And that's verifiable fact. It's not my private little website that I can delete any negative comments and I can create the illusion that I provide good customer service. I unequivocally provide the most phenomenal customer service for what I do. That's why I do that. So there are also people on Etsy that have figured out how to sell genetics on there. If they have really high reviews, those are probably also okay people to buy genetics from. Lots of ways to figure this stuff out. I really like the making friends with people and trading genetics. I think that whole vibe is getting lost a little bit. You know, it's cool to have a friend that you trade genetics with from time to time. Also fun. Oh, here we go. Myco Mamas. Yes, we have a list of trusted vendors. I mean, in my Discord server, I also have a sister server called the Swap Meet, where we have a bunch of trusted vendors in there as well. There's any of these myco groups will have a list of trusted vendors, unless it is solely a vehicle for promoting a single vendor, in which case that might or might not be a trustworthy source. I'm not saying it's not, but it might or might not be. Just never know. Anyway,
I'm gonna have to take a bathroom break if we go much longer here.
Oh no, we can go.
I've
gotten real good at, I'm a nurse, man. I'm good at holding my pee. I can go about 9 hours without urinating.
This 4 hours for me. That's it. Let's push it.
Yeah. All right, guys.
If you see my face get real relaxed, you know, I need one of my incontinence pads.
There you go. Or just, a little Foley
pillow.
catheter beforehand, you'll be good. Or you could just use a condom cath, then you wouldn't have
a Gatorade bottle.
Yeah, you're right. It could just be as easy as a Gatorade bottle. Yeah. All right, that's what we're gonna end on. We're gonna end on the visual of Ed incorporating diaper tech and really make use of the incontinence pads in the way they were intended to be used. Yes. What does that look like?
I could go for another 4 hours.
Never mind. I'm good. I remember my kids used to do that. It used to be like, too late. Great.
Oh, I love it when you see little kids like pooping their pants and you could tell they're pooping their pants. It's like, that little kid's pooping
the grunt.
Yeah.
We used to crack up. Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Carlos Castanet. Very cool name. I like that. Nope. Not the longest.
No.
I think for my show, it was over 5 hours.
5 hours. Yeah,
and
5.5 hours.
For Ed's, I don't know. What's the longest you've done? Pretty insane.
Oh, I think one time it was over 7 hours, I think. We
and
took
then
like a 20-minute break in the middle.
If you think that's impressive, though, what was the longest one DK ever did?
Yeah, that might have been the same one.
Oh, was that?
I don't remember if it was his or mine, which channel it was on. Yeah, one of the ones we did together, it was about 7.
Yeah, we've done some long ones. No, honestly, for Carlos here, you must be newer. If you look back on some of the old ones, 3 was pretty standard. 3 was pretty common, over 3 hours. Yeah. Well, right, it's just hanging out, talking with your buddy. Is it densely packed with a bunch of? Is it as densely packed as my substrate is with my hamburger press? No, it's not. It's a little lighter. It's for those people that just barely tamp down that substrate.
It's fun though. I think we gave I hope we gave some people some good ideas out there tonight.
Yeah, I think the biggest win is really the reishi pillows, but follow that by the AFLP for paternity testing. I mean, we're gonna have to do some follow up on that. I think that's gonna be pretty exciting.
For sure.
So guys, if you know any bioinformatics majors want to get in on it, just hop in my DMs. We're gonna make all this happen. All right, dude. Well, this was a great talk, and we'll do it again soon.
Okay, man. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you guys later.
So wait, what time is it there? You're only about noon or 1?
It's 10 to noon.
Nice.
10 to noon.
All right, dude. All right. Well, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day then. Probably
Eat some
packing.
lunch.
Oh, you're gonna actually eat lunch. You're not gonna straight away go into mycology. That's good.
No, I might go stalk some women at the market. Hunt.
Go back to the hunter gatherer,
or just get on Tinder.
There you go. I mean, so you know, you're always talking about that forearm strength from squishing all that. I bet it really makes it easy to swipe left and right. Then I bet your swiping skills just exceptional. Yes.
I can't do those apps, man. It's too weird. I'm old enough where it's like too weird to still like meeting people online for dates. It's like still kind of creepy.
It is. We're just old. That's all it is. Yeah. All right, guys. All right. Well, Ed, I will talk to you soon.
Okay, I'll see.
See you, man. All right, guys. We did it. It's done. I got to go to bed. I'm not even going to tell you when I got to be up to take my kid to school in the morning. It's soon. It's pretty soon. I'll get a sleep cycle in though. That's okay. Anyway, guys, so next week we're going to have Jasper D on the show. He's a Fungi Academy. He's a super cool guy. I really clicked with this dude. Had a lot of fun talking with him. Unfortunately, had a lot of technical difficulties, which has given me a lot of learning opportunities with my editing software. So we're going to get that all tight so that's a nice polished segment, and should be a good time. And then I'll be going to NAMA, and I might or might not be able to put a show together for that Monday. We'll see. I might be traveling, might do a live. We'll see how it all goes. But anyway, should be a good time. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And since we're live here, I gotta get this all queued up. All right, guys, go grow some mushrooms.